Well. How are we doing, all you beautiful people, on this fine, beautiful Friday night? Let's just make double dog sure you are getting all... Yes, you are. All the beautiful, sweet, soft summer sounds that are my voice. How are we doing, all you beautiful people out there? I am your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands, and the Nostradamus of the markets himself, folks. Do not worry. Phil K.O.E. is here to lead you through this time of tumult and chaos, and I am glad to be joined by all of you here. We've got a lot to cover. We've got a lot to get into, folks. We're not going to waste any time. I want to get into my appearance on Big Buckin' Empire last night, amongst many other things. We had a really good cast of characters, and I want to go over that here with you, here at the K.O.E. Nation. It's going to be a great time for all of you beautiful people. But yes, here at K.O.E. Nation on YouTube, K.O.E. Nation on Twitch, K.O.E. Nation TikTok, it's the place to be. But we're going to look into a place you need to be, called Big Buckin' Empire, folks. And without further ado, let's get right into it, because it's spicy pretty much from the word go.
Please welcome Tom Thumb.
I'm here, and in my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you. No other will do. I've lost all ambition for worldly acclaim.
Any government is to monopolize as much violence as possible in order for it to inflict it on as many citizens as possible.
I've been on this weird anarchist arc for a few
have
months
reached
now.
the goal
This is
that I'm
playing by their
dreaming
rules.
of.
Exactly.
Believe me, I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame.
Watching the Dog and Chicken Show. Like, share, subscribe.
Subscribe. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show.
But yes, folks, we also make Tiberius really uncomfortable, so enjoy that. Welcome, one and all, to Big Buckin' Empire, episode 149, folks. This is the cure. This is the lesson to cure your recession depression. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil K.O.E., the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower. You can find me, of course, at K.O.E. Nation on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. That is, of course, right after you subscribe, right here to Big Buckin' Empire on YouTube and Facebook. And I am joined by my indomitable broadcast partner in frustration, the one, the only,
the non-coppa friendly, the 13-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, the fucking lord of TikTok, and yes, very, very technically frustrated, Tony fucking G. Like, share, subscribe, folks. Yes, this is the Dog and Chicken Show, episode 149. Recession. So we're going to get into that tonight. We've got a lot of other wonderful topics that are scrolling at the bottom, as well as some other things that we will be shilling, as well as the socials. I'm going to get into all that in a second, but holy God, the fact that we're even live, I'm sorry we're late, folks. This has not been a fun night to produce, and this is not a fun night to have this asshole not with us. Hello, Chicken. This devilishly handsome fellow in the comments as well. Thank you, Tantui 10 Man. The cameraman, hello again. Wait, did Tony go from 10 to 13? Maybe if you paid attention and actually watched the shows, you'd know. Gentlemen, yes, hello, Melanie. I have had just an fuckload of issues. I don't know. I've gone through 4 different microphones to get this show going. Yeah, it's been an adventure. But on a plus side, folks, I did get Phil gin. He purposely forgot his bottle of gin tonight, but I made a special delivery. There it is. You can see it right there on the screen.
You know, good rapscallion ne'er-do-well. So
So
We will
I'm
do
checking
that.
right now, but it does not appear, and I'm going to have fucking microphone issues all night. It looks like we're not having stars tonight. So what that means is we will instead be using the Buy Me a Coffee feature. I'll pop that link up here in a second. Again, I'm just by the skin of my ass here tonight, folks, because issues. But I do have one way. Instead of using the stars, there's a fun little feature that we've had going, and it's still going on through the month of July. So you still got a few days to get in on this fun ordeal. This is something new. Instead of spending stars, yes, you can get in on Big Bucket Empire. Subscribe to Facebook. Now, all you got to do is go to the Facebook page, go to Subscribe Hub. You click on that subscribe button. Boom. That's all there is to it. Actually, I think that's what it looks like for me.
Hey there,
For people who have
Tiberius.
not subscribed.
Is this from last night? It is, Ty. It is. I was playing this because I enjoyed this one so much. I was going to get into some of the highlights and the clips and all that goodery. And also while I was setting everything up for the evening and just relentlessly whoring myself out. But yes, actually, the great Tiberius D makes an appearance a little bit later in this. But how we doing there, Ty? How we doing there, sir? Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit of a late start. I got done with work. I sat down in my chair and was like, oh, I want to go live at 8:30. I'll just take a quick nap and then. Oh shit! It's 10 o'clock. Okay, shit. So, yeah, has that ever happened to you? I played nap roulette, where it's like, shit, am I going to sleep for 15 minutes or 4 hours? Let's spin the wheel and see what happens. Tiberius goes, just finishing up my studies for the Indiana insurance license. Well, fuck yeah. Good luck to you, sir. So you're going to be a farmer streamer insurance expert. So nice. I love nap. I usually crash for 2 to 4 hours. Yeah, like that was one of the things I, like a fool, I had 25 minutes set as a alarm on my phone, and shockingly didn't get me up. But your need for K.O.E content remains constant nonetheless. But yes, Tiberius was so nice enough to join us last night. And if any of y'all feel the need, just let me know. I'll shoot you a link if you want to come on chat about the world and all sorts of, life and truth and such. Because we're going to get into a couple of fluff stories here at the beginning, and then we get into it. Actually, Nate, you feel the need for speed. Well, then give me just a moment here. Copy. So let me just play that audio here while I pull up Discord.
It will look like this. You go to Facebook, you click the subscribe button, boom. What that does for you, instead of spending 500 stars, you automatically get to choose something off of the star board, regardless of price. Justin Chris got in on this last week, got himself a shot. That's all it is. It's $5 a month instead of spending $20, $30, $40 on stars. You get something every week. So for a $5 shot or beer chug or whatever, that's a $20 value every week. I mean, you really can't go wrong.
Basically, Tony, what you're saying is this is a chance for people to get in on the ground floor of the fastest growing podcast in history. So yeah, really. Wes, Jay, Ryan, miss you guys. We yes. Miss you too. And it will be hopefully not a poultry-free episode next week. But yes, folks, this subscribe option is a way to get in on the ground floor and to kind of grandfather yourself in to anything that you want on our list. And it will be at one basic price, and it will apply to every show we do that month. So for basically the price of one gin shot of Phil K.O.E, you can make me do 4 across a month. So
exactly. And you know what? Justin got it.
But yeah, Ty, one thing, like if you do come on, we do need to discuss how do we have an intervention for our friends on the left who refuse to admit that we're in a recession? Like what do we do for that? Because we've got a couple of, like, even some folks within the mask off army, within the mask off nation, if you will. Like one particular person I've had some back and forth with all day, the only Cypher, has actually been on Big Bucket Empire as well. He refuses to admit we're in a recession, and it's one of those, I'm reminded of a very poignant quote where you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality.
in on it last week, and I happen to know if he's watching tonight, I'm sure he's going to want to get in on that Phil K.O.E.
I
gin
don't
shot.
think he
But
needs to do that. That's...
anybody who's not familiar, I'm going to pop up the starboard here in just a second. But, I do have a couple of beers, and I've got the returning Chug Buddy. So if anybody wants to jump in on that, I'll get the Buy Me a Coffee link pulled up here in a second. But I also happen to know, Phil, we did get a new subscriber just today on Facebook. Do you happen to know who that might have been?
I do not.
Let me see. I'm gonna try to find it real quick. Oh, wait, yep, I think it's coming in on Facebook right now. One Tony G.
Oh, you know, good bastard.
To fucking Facebook. So there it is, folks. Our first.
You fucking ass, Tony. You're an ass. Have I ever mentioned that you're an ass?
You have. I don't know why.
Hey, Tony, by the way, you're an ass. So, folks, to fighting, stealing, and drinking. If you're going to fight, may it be for a friend. If you're going to steal, may it be a lover's heart. And if you're going to drink, well, damn it better be with me. Oh, that's pain. Look, that is pain, folks. Oh, that is pain. Oh, fuck. Well, folks, also just note, I might be called away at any moment because duty calls and, your need for agricultural products and food remains constant. So I might be called away at any given moment, but your need for K.O.E content and entertainment also remains constant. But Tony looks like, what do you know? Wes J. Ryan serving it right back at you there, buddy.
That's fine. I will do that in just a minute, but I gotta find the damn picture. Like I said, I got nothing ready, folks. Phil, why don't you tell us what you got going on this week at work?
Oh, well, we're actually in the middle of detasseling. We're basically creating a hybrid seed corn, and it's, if you're from Nebraska, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not, you have no clue what I'm talking about, and it would be shockingly hard to even explain it to you. I even made a video of it 2 years ago that I uploaded on my YouTube channel, which, I'd love to play for you, but I'm sure like Chicken would actually find a way to log on just to yell at us. But don't worry. There's going to be plenty more opportunities for us to watch old videos of ourselves later throughout the night, which I'm sure Chicken will love. But beyond that, over at K.O.E Nation on YouTube, we've also got the Rye Tournament. That's going to be wrapping up real soon, folks. Tomorrow, the Final Four matchup between Michter's and Woodford Reserve goes live tomorrow at 2. And then after that, only 2 weeks left. And you find out what is the Rye of Extreme. And hey, Tiberius. We might be hearing from Tiberius later. I hope we do.
Excellent.
Nate also says he's going to be stopping by. We shall see, though. But yes, Tiberius, you're always welcome here, good sir, because we're going to be talking about all kinds of crazy shit. We're going to be talking about George Takei's crazy ass. We're going to be talking about the OnlyFans blues, Vince McMahon gone, and also a lesson to cure your recession depression. So, yes, all of this is coming up on the amazing Big Bucket Empire and potentially some run-ins. I sent some links out. We will see what we get. But, folks...
All right. I have got the star-ish board, folks. It's not what we usually do, but we're making do. All right, here you go. This is the No Stars special board. This happens once in a while. Very simple, very straightforward. We don't got to get fancy. We're not doing a bunch of addition here. $5 for a beer chug, $5 for a shot, and $5 to mute someone for 5 minutes. And it's buymeacoffee.com /Big Buckin'. Yeah, that is that. So Big Buckin' at buymeacoffee.com. There you go. Very simple. If you need to see that again at any point, just let me know. But I guess before we start getting into topics, I have to do one of these. Yep. Oh boy. 10:40. Okay. Folks, we're bringing back the Chug Buddy, and you know what? I don't even care right now because it's been a day. Those of you who missed the Chug Buddy last week, this is a delightful
things like
tool.
magic.
Yeah, it really kind of is. My oldest has been trying to chug it with water all week. He's not quite up to snuff with his old man yet, but he'll get there. Here we go.
Chip off the old block.
Whew. Cheers.
Good
Ooh,
God.
foamy. Oh God. I stored all the foam in the damn. Oh wow. Woo. Okay. Wow.
So,
Oopsie
what was the
daisies.
timer on that?
4.5, I think.
Oh, you've done better. Come on.
Yeah, you're right.
Jerry Michalak could put 6 shots on target in 1.99 seconds, T. I think you can chug 1 beer in that same amount of time. I believe in you. We need to train you. This is like gonna be like a Rocky, like a freaking montage.
I don't know. I don't know if I need training or just like 10 years reduced off of my age. I'm gonna go with that second part.
We would all like that second one, but
we're 12 minutes into the show, and I haven't even really dribbling. I haven't even decided what I'm actually going to be sipping on tonight, folks. If you don't know, yesterday was National Scotch Day, so I have 3 lovely choices for one of my favorite Highlands, the Glendronach. I've got a 12-year, a 15-year, and a Portwood. Phil, what do you think I should go with?
15.
15. We're going to start with you. This is a lovely bottle. Love this stuff. This is gorgeous. It's 15 years, matured in the finest Pedro Jimenez and Alazoro sherry casks from Spain. Good.
That's beautiful.
And I've been doing a lot of bourbon lately, so I figured it was only right that maybe I give myself a rest. Now, folks, I did want to mention, I don't know yet how this is going to go. I don't know the planning, and I don't know Chicken and Phil's schedules off the top of my head. So I'll just say it now. We may be taking a week off next week because I will be out camping, and I know on Thursday I won't be around. Don't know what time I'll be getting back Friday. So next week's kind of up in the air.
You shut your whore mouth, because when Phil K.O.E. hears a captive audience is available, why, I shall service. And don't worry, Tony, Chicken, worry not. Wayne's World 2.0 will certainly run.
Well, here's the thing, Phil. We're tonight is episode 149. Our next episode is going to be episode 150. A, we got to have a full cast. B, we got to make it special.
God.
C, if I'm not on, like, what the fuck is even the point? So we're going to have to talk to Chick and get this sorted out. So
I was about to say, we're
if you don't,
we're going to need to figure out something with Tony's OCD ass over here. Like, no, episode 150 has to be a spectacular extravaganza.
Exactly. And as you all know, if you've all watched the Dog and Chicken Show for 149 episodes, you'll know that every 50 episodes goes off without a hitch. Like, there are no hiccups whatsoever. Episode 50, we actually broadcasted live from the depths of hell. It was a 900 degrees in Chicken's garage. And then episode 100, I had the worst internet connection in the world. I even drove to Phil's house. And that's still, I brought the bad internet with me and ended up driving back. I did most of the stream from my phone in the car. So yeah, I feel like episode 150, it's just going to be a monumental, landmark, amazing show. So we've got to do a little prep work.
I was about to say, so what you're saying is I need to avoid that show like the fucking plague.
Maybe it'd be better if I was cursed. Off of it.
Like, yeah, I was about to say, man. Like, Tony, it just
me.
sounds like your mic is just going to poof and just like burst into flames.
That's basically what happened tonight. I don't know. I'm on my third stand-up. This is not good. I know I sound like shit, but you can hear me. So that's really all that matters. Now, Phil. Tyler. God, there's no stars tonight, but we do have Buy Me a Coffee, and if you subscribe to Big Buckin', you get a starboard. Once again, reminding everybody, that'll be the last plug for a while. I promise. We'll check you back in hour 2. All right, fucking nerds. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Phil, what would you like to start with tonight? We've got a lot of topics.
Well, I think we need to talk about Mr. Numbers himself. The one, the only, the fucking insanity, George Takei. Because, like, well, we're going to get to Vince McMahon a little later, and I'm hoping Nate gets here for that, because I got a couple of questions about a couple of things. Like, that seems a little funky. What's your thoughts on that? So we're going to start off with George
All right.
Takei needs to shut his fucking mouth.
There's that. I don't know if anybody remembers. George Takei is one of the original cast members of Star Trek. Mr. Sulu himself. The man, the actor, George Takei, is a fucking insane person. He is a member of the LGBTQ plus community, which is fine. This headline keeps popping up on my news this week, though. So let's go over this. This is from Queerty. Okay, I guess that's
Queerty?
all right.
I don't know.
Queerty. I'm guessing this is a LGBTQ thing. Queerty, free of an agenda except the gay one. That's the website, folks. There you go. George Takei has perfect.
That's actually kind of funny. Okay,
That is
like,
actually pretty good.
like I've got to give that one credit, but it's like I was about to say, I have a feeling
my
this is
God.
with a bend towards LGBTQ
So,
issues.
I just read the side story here. Why exactly is hashtag Prince of Pegging trending on Twitter? Prepare to be royally surprised.
Oh my god. Like,
So this
can
might
you
be my
imagine
favorite
writing those
website.
clickbait headlines like that? Like that's like, oh man.
Sounds like it was written by me. Let's be honest.
That does
So,
look so
this headline kept popping up on my news feed. I have not read this article. I don't know what we're in store for. But we do have a follow-up once we get through this.
Yeah,
headline.
there's
I
a
just want to
follow-up.
remind everybody of. With debates around school textbooks and the passing of the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, some on the far right are increasingly
Tony, you
accusing
said
members
gay.
of the LGBTQ community of wanting to groom children. This disgusting dog whistle of a claim conflates LGBTQ rights with pedophilia. Using the term grooming to discuss issues in the school curriculum also detracts from the serious issue of pedophiles who actually do target and groom kids. Again, we're talking about pedophiles who target and groom kids. That's important later.
I was about to say,
okay?
Keep that
That
in
is
mind,
very,
folks.
very important later.
That detail is going to come up again a little later.
It is. Actor George Takei, who turned 85 last week, tweeted the perfect response over the weekend. He reminded people about how gay kids are usually brought up in wholly heterosexual environment, and it does nothing to change their sexuality. The quote, "They're groomed me to be heterosexual, you know. It didn't change a thing. Still, gay as a rainbow, sprinkle-covered cupcake," he said. Takei's tweet had over 200,000 likes and thousands of comments.
Numbers.
Takei followed it up with a second tweet saying, "The only things gay grooming will ever do to a straight child will be better hygiene and more desirability from the other sex." Wow. Stunning. Brave.
So,
Thoughts, Phil?
so read that first one to me again. The
They
first tweet.
groomed me to be heterosexual, you know. It didn't change a thing. Still gay as a rainbow, sprinkled covered cupcake.
Now keep that in mind, folks, that he said he was being groomed to be a heterosexual.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. That's going to come up again a little later.
Yeah.
Continue, T.
So yeah, here we go. Oh god, we've got a bunch of other extra shit responses. That's really all Queerty's got. So he's responding to the idea of grooming and pedophilia being a part. Like he's taking offense. I mean, is that fair to say that George Takei here is taking offense to the far right using the term grooming because it puts heterosexuality in a different light, and they're saying that, you know, being homosexual, obviously that's not a choice. We understand that now. That used to be the stigma, right? You know, people are born this way. That's fine. But we're worried more about people being groomed to think one way or the other. And he's trying to squash that idea by saying no grooming takes place, right?
Yeah, he's saying it's a vast mischaracterization.
Right.
But
so I think it's probably important. Let's go back to an article from 2017, 5 years ago. The original Star Trekker, George Takei, says he lost virginity to an attractive man at 13 years old. And there you see him as Taco Bell spokesperson, Liv and Moss. Well, you could look at this a couple of ways, I guess. This is coming from Euroweb.com. TMI, or should we be feeling some kind of way because this was an obvious crime of pedophilia? It's weird, seeing as the victim is what, like 80? Well, 85 this week. Damn, George, what are we supposed to think? The new Taco Bell spokesman 5 years ago. Hey, a brother's got to do what a brother's got to do, right? The new Taco Bell spokesman defending the stance of mutually agreed upon sex with a 19-year-old pretty attractive blonde camp counselor when he was only 13. I was kind of I thought he was attractive. George Takei, who came out as gay decades ago, admits. So
numbers.
I think that's about it. Okay, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So recap, I just wanted to stress this. George Takei says grooming doesn't exist, and
but
okay
was
he was
but
raped
he was by his own admission clearly groomed.
Right. He was actually groomed by a male adult as a barely
clearly,
teenager.
By his own
I know it's only a 6-year
words.
age gap, but we're talking about a 19-year-old camp counselor taking advantage of a barely teenage boy. But no, grooming doesn't exist, and we should all feel bad about talking about it. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I mean,
Did I pretty much sum that up?
So yeah, I think you got that interesting little juxtaposition of this story, and then wasn't there just what? Mr. Saxakeet says grooming doesn't exist in the sense everyone you disagree with politically isn't a groomer. Well, yeah, absolutely. We're not saying that, but we are pointing out the fact that George, this might be a bit of.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I do have gin.
If you want it, just call it out, Justin.
Or you could make Tony chug another beer.
Nah, Phil wants more gin.
No, Tony wants more beer. I mean, Justin, I mean, as the OG of our subscribers, I mean, I think you really should just make Tony chug another beer. But no, we're talking about, it's a very interesting juxtaposition where this one individual is saying this doesn't happen and this is being exaggerated, but they themselves were the victim of this.
Yeah,
and
it clearly didn't affect him at all.
Well, I wonder if this isn't some far be it for me to, psychologize somebody from far away, but this almost looks like a bit of a coping. And wait. Stop the presses, because we've got a very special run in here, folks. We've got a very special visit from a very special attorney. I mean, folks, a man so wise in the legal ways that Johnny Cochran's Force Ghost asks him for legal advice. The one, the only, Nathan Dellen. How are we doing, sir?
I'm well. It's a great day to be in Nebraska and K.O.E. and the Buck Nation. How is everybody? What have you been talking about? I'm late. I apologize for my tardiness.
Oh,
but I am here now.
We've merely just been talking about the incredible, well-spoken Mr. George Takei and how grooming doesn't exist except for when it legitimately happened to him at 13. But that doesn't matter. So that's neither here nor there.
Oh, geez. Well, are we going to talk about Vince? That's
we are. We're going to get there.
We're
getting there.
That's the next story, actually, because I was wanting your perspective on that.
We do have a response to Mr. Saxakeet's comment from Cameraman to say grooming doesn't exist at all because not all of them are doing it is just as ignorant and naive as saying they all do it because it does exist. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Obviously, it does happen. George Takei was legitimately groomed. Now, I understand that wasn't really the concept when the 19-year-old took advantage of 13-year-old George, but it still falls in the same vein. Come on. It is what it is. But
I have a question about this. So obviously, and I've talked to Phil about this previously. So the groomer discourse has really hit a nerve, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's big time hit a nerve because more or less,
absolutely,
all of these sexually explicit identities are more or less being preached, evangelized. I'm a Mormon. I've done the door knocking. I know what evangelizing is. All right. And I'm going to tell you right now that what I was up to and what teachers and schools are up to is not that far apart. And so to me, it's a fascinating question where you say, I want to base my identity around sexuality. And then I want to talk to kids about it all the time. And you say, okay, well, hold on a minute. In that kind of an environment, in that kind of a setting, are you not encouraging the children to experiment with their sexuality and possibly be doing that with you. Right?
It's kind of funny because, like, that's kind of one of the problems.
Yeah, one could make that connection.
One could make that connection.
Are you implying, Nate, that young impressionable children might be a touch impressionable?
Yeah, and like I like to think of it this way, because I heard on the Twitter box there was somebody who's making the argument like, well, we need to talk about these things because it's real life, and I thought, methamphetamine's real life. I don't know if I want to be exposing the children. Hey guys, smoke this. Let's see how it goes to the 10-year-old. Right? Like there's actually a lot of things. Like even like I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment. I don't necessarily want the schools trying to teach my children how to handle firearms at age 4. That may not be kindergarten time. You know what I mean? Like
wait till age 6.
Right. and under the supervision of grandpa on the ranch, right? Like we're very specific on who gets to train the youngins with guns, and it's not the girls who were just doing student teaching last year and with purple hair. Like that's just not how that works. So I think it's pretty obvious that there are certain topics that you grow into, and then to push a sexual, first of all, like a closeness between teacher and student about sexuality, especially at younger ages, it hits a nerve for reasons, gentlemen. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I'm kind of making my own version of Jeff Foxworthy jokes, but it's instead you might be a groomer. And my most powerful one thus far is this one, because I got some other ones that aren't as good, but this one's the best one. If you have to start your sentences with "Don't tell your parents, but you might be a groomer," and the thing is, like what you're talking about here, Nate, is it's kind of like the inverse opposite of what the left does to the right with racist, in that it doesn't matter whether you're racist or not. It has no bearing. When they say it, you can't get it off of you. Okay. And so the right's on when they say groomer like they just can't get it off of them after that. And the left hates it. Now, folks, worry not, because Big Bucket Empire is one of the last shows on the internet where you can actually even still say the word groomer. So at least for now, anyways. Yeah, for now. But
Phil's gonna go all equal. What do they call it? The equality movement on us. One day Phil's gonna come in and be like, gentlemen, we're gonna have sensitivity training. We will not have these insensitive comments.
No, he tries to do that weekly whenever we try to push the bar with stories, and he gets all prudy about it.
I don't know. Well, it's not so much prudy. It's just I don't want us to not have a show anymore, and that's getting easier and easier to get rid of with each passing week with these social media companies. But I'm
the thing with the groomer, the whole groomer tagline itself. Honestly, I think it became more popular just because the word boomer had recently become so popular, and it fucking rhymes. Sorry, this is how stupid and simple-minded we are as a species. Like, oh, it's a rhyme, and it's kind of different. That's fun and new, and it just stuck. But at the same time, yeah, of course not every gay person is groomer. That's fucking ludicrous to say or think, for that matter.
Well, it's also my experience.
This is also just as silly.
It's just my experience until about 2 years ago. I know zero gay men who are like, oh yeah, we should probably have children's books about what it means to be a gay man in kindergarten, right? Like every gay man I know and every lesbian woman that I know, none of them were on this "let's push this stuff" train. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I was just meeting with a couple of gay men today, and they made the comment that they're both white and they're both cisgendered. They're on the outs. They've been told. They've been told that they're on the outs.
They're the white men are the bad guys of the woke, intersectionality Olympics.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just give you a little more context on this. So
hang on. I just want to say 1996 me wants to know what the fuck you just said. Because none of that made any sense.
It barely makes sense now. But so these are professional men. Okay. And they are in the middle of going through some interesting adoption situations. And one of them is in med school. And he became the subject of a group chat amongst some of the potential doctors as to whether or not he was problematic because he was thinking about adopting a child who wasn't white. So was it problematic for two white men,
oh, for God's sake,
to adopt a Hispanic male child right? Was that problematic because we have cis, white, gay men? Are they okay to take care of a child of color? And like, guys,
Yeah, because
I'm just
the
going to tell you.
foster system is such a better alternative.
Well, actually, they are foster parents. They're trying to adopt the kid who's in the foster system, and they're like, we want him to have a
Outright.
permanent home. And
Yeah.
like they're
They're already in the system and they're giving them a blowback because they want to adopt.
Now, I do got to say, Tony,
Oh my
again, this is
God.
another one of those talk to 1996 version of yourself. And like,
Yeah.
you will be like, no, we're fighting. This gay couple should be allowed to adopt. What the fuck? Like, yeah, go back to like you would be fighting.
Yeah.
Like, wow, how the world has changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to me, I found this fascinating because, like, to me, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of pre-made kids out there that just need homes. That's all they need. And so, and what's fascinating is when you get to the statistics, gay men of any cohabitation arrangement have the lowest instance of domestic violence. And conversely, lesbian women actually have the highest instance of domestic violence reporting to the police. So I'm not quite sure what to make of that yet, but it's just one of those fascinating
women are monsters. That's all.
Well, no, I remember NPR even reported this, and they said, could it be that like two gay men who even get into a fist fight might write that off as boys will be boys? Meanwhile, two lesbian women
I bet you there's something to that,
who even like just barely shove each other a little bit, and the cops are now involved, and like so, like yeah, I bet there might actually be like two gay guys get into a fist
fight. Are you
fight.
insinuating that women elaborate? The audacity of you.
I don't think I'm insinuating that at all, Tony. I think.
I think that's proven.
I think most women in
No
our
offense
comment
to our
section will
female
agree with
viewers out
that.
there who are probably no longer watching. Justin did chime in. Yes, Phil, it's on you this week.
Ah, son of a biscuit. I will get to that in a
I
moment.
thought you were getting away from that.
There was one thing I wanted to mention when we're talking about the boomer versus groomer, and it's a kind of cheat code and persuasion, and I don't know what it is about it. If you rhyme something, the brain will immediately think it's true. It doesn't matter. And
the alliteration,
your profession has the greatest example of that in all human history. If the glove does not fit, you must acquit. And that was what won the fucking case. That was it. And like all the mountains of circumstantial evidence.
Okay, let's be frank. If that were a white lawyer who was rhyming, like that never would have worked. He was a master wordsmith, and we had to applaud that. And at the time, hip hop was the big thing. Everybody's like, well, I don't want to seem uncool. No, that motherfucker just, that's it. Acquit. We got it. We can't turn this away.
I got to say just what, like, Nate, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but somehow, because his lawyers are just like the greatest lawyers in God's creation, apparently, like they got this suppressed. OJ actually walked in and did an interview with the LAPD by himself. Did you ever see this?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard about this. Yeah.
Oh, when you get done watching it, you'll be like, oh yeah, the juice did that shit. Like you can't go on.
We all
He
knew
wrote a book. He wrote a book entitled "How I Would Have Done It If I Did It." Like he's not even hiding it.
No.
Yes, but we're hitting it all, even OJ. But like,
Speaking of fucking Throwback Thursday stories, did you see in the news that they're thinking they might be able to finally crack the cold case of John Benet Ramsey?
Oh, so one of the Ramsey parents is finally going to prison?
You would think.
Like that's what's gonna...
We'll see what actually cracking this case turns into, but
one of the parents going to prison. That's what like.
Well,
it's a spoiler alert, folks. Not a prediction, but a spoiler warning. But now T. Now that we got Nate here, I think it's time to shift gears. And there's
it would be Phil, but we're still waiting on that shot.
Oh, you bastard!
Yeah, I'm not forgetting about that. Sorry,
you rotten, no good rapscallion ne'er do well. Okay, folks.
I'm going to have to get you a bigger shot glass. That one just looks a little small.
No, it's actually 1 ounce. See,
sure it is.
Says it right there.
Yeah, holding it up to the camera makes it look that much bigger. I think it needs to be bigger.
You know what, Tony? Go fuck yourself. All right.
Standard shot should be 2 ounces. I'm just saying.
No, trust me. The bars in the UK will make sure you don't get a whiff of alcohol over 1 ounce.
Well, we're in the greatest country in the world, Phil, the US of A. How is that Hawkeye gin, by the way? we get a review?
0 out of fucking 5 stars. It's fucking terrible.
It's pretty bad.
Oh, God.
That's
Like,
a cheaper gin than cheap gin.
Yeah. Nate, if you ever do actually try a sip of alcohol, make sure it's not gin. This is
Yeah, no.
this is like, I don't even know why it's a thing, but like for a guy like you, I'd recommend a low proof bourbon. That'd be where to start. But
I
I have to admit, I've recently been thinking to myself, if I ever started drinking and smoking cigars, I would make the trip south of York, and
K.O.E.
I would break myself in with Papa Phil.
I would be
No
a good guy
question.
to break you in on that, because if you came to Castle K.O.E., it'd be like, oh, you need to try these 6 different things. You need to, like, you would.
Oh God, yeah. There's no worse place to start your introduction to whiskey, because Phil's like, I've got a masterful selection. Let's just have a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. Oh, you're shit faced. Oh, what'd you pass out for?
I'm like the
Only
Willy.
been an hour.
I'm like the Willy Wonka of whiskey exploration. So it will.
Are
be,
there Oompa Loompas in that closet waiting to serve me some?
You might
So
think
look
there are by the end of the
Don't look
night.
in his closet. Look in the other closet.
You
won't
might
like what you
believe
see.
so by the end of the night. You never know.
You
But yes,
All right.
yes. We now
Let's-
shift some gears because I've been
do
curious.
it.
And well, I'm glad I got you here, Nate, because there's a couple of interesting questions and picadillos. The great Vince McMahon, after several years, has retired from WWE. The disgraced Vince McMahon has been forced to resign in disgrace, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, what happened is it was discovered, the shareholders discovered that he had made some NDA non-disclosure agreement payments, numbering in the millions, to several different women who had been under his employ over the years. Now, the way this all got the ball rolling, and this is something I'm curious about, Nate, a friend of one of the ladies who signed a non-disclosure agreement leaked this to the WWE board of directors. Now, to me, that would just seem like the lady who signed a agreement not to disclose
Is in
clearly
trouble.
has disclosed.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. But it's also going to be a problem to hunt down and find beyond by a preponderance of the evidence that she was in fact the spillover, right? I mean, it becomes a nightmare when you've got these he said, she said, in the dark, anonymous tip, situations. It's very, very difficult. But yeah, no, Vince could go after some money, but of course it's not that much. Are we not sure
Like
this
$3
is
million?
No, well,
Yeah.
for Vince, I mean, for
Yeah,
Vince, what's
you're
$3
right.
million? He's probably rolling that when he goes to Vegas. I don't think that's like.
Well, this is the other kicker: is he had $12 million worth of NDA payments he had paid out over about a 15-year period, and he was
First
like,
of
"Well,
all, okay. Raise your hand if this is surprising. Who on the board was like, our Vince?
I know,
Never.
but-
I do declare it's impossible. Like, no, like, what is, I don't understand. This is a power play by Triple H, right? Like, no question.
Well, actually, it's probably not Triple H. It's a guy named Nick Khan, who is actually The Rock's best friend in college. Nick Khan is a guy that sets up companies to get sold. That's just what he does on Wall Street. And but the big problem here, and the reason he had to retire, is he paid $12 million, but it was of his own money, he said. But over that same amount of time, they also found $14.7 million of personal expenses he had just kind of charged WWE.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those, yeah, you're going to pay this money back and you're going to resign. And the SEC might not investigate you. And it sounds like
That's the only way this works, is that if there was an actual problem from the SEC, right? Because if I'm Vince, I make this a public issue and I say, let's let the fans decide. Let's let our customers of our product decide whether or not it's time for me to go. And frankly, I'm sure WWE Nation would have risen up.
Well, here's the thing.
Oh, they were, but the
It
SEC
depends
was beginning an investigation, actually. And
Right,
so
and
that
that's
was-
the
depends
thing.
on
If
which
it's part of a
section of
settlement
fan
with the
base you
SEC,
ask.
then I guess it makes sense.
So here's the actual story. Let's just gloss over this real quick. This is coming from IndiaGlitz.com. obviously this story is already almost a week old, but WWE boss Vince McMahon retires after being accused of sexual misconduct. Famous wrestler to replace him. Chief Executive Officer, Chairman of World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, Vince McMahon announced his retirement at 77, a month after he stepped down from his duties over alleged sexual misconduct claims. The WWE and its board of directors have now announced that Paul Levesque, better known as Triple H in the wrestling world, will assume all responsibilities related to WWE's creative, in addition to his regular duties that he just recently came back from after heart surgery.
Yeah,
no
do we
pressure.
know? Do we know how he's doing?
Good enough to come and run $1 billion company, I guess. My God. He was trying to take. Here's the thing: Stephanie, his wife, Vince's daughter, just walked away not that long ago to spend more time with her family. Triple H had this heart surgery. It was just Vince, a couple of his cronies, and like Phil was alluding to, this Nick Khan, who essentially it comes in to streamline a company to the point where it will be the most valuable it could possibly be if a sale were to occur. So now Stephanie's back. Triple H is assuming all creative control amongst his other duties, and yeah, it's. Do
you think Triple H is thinking to shop the properties and like sell it?
Oh yeah.
If it were up to Triple H, I don't know that selling would be the first thing on his mind, because he wouldn't even get a chance to suggest that, because Nick Khan would already be doing it.
Yeah, like Nick Khan is basically trying, and in my opinion, he's trying to set
up your mouth, Tiberius! You shut it down!
No, Vince is trying to convince everybody that the shit in that NDA stuff, that was all fake and part of a storyline. Like, no, that was just a storyline. But Nick Khan's trying to get it sold to Disney. Disney would be. Oh yeah, Disney would.
ESPN.
Definitely.
We're gonna have Raw on ESPN. Is that what's about to happen?
That's very, very possible. But also one other thing.
Do I get the WWE Network on Disney Plus? My kids can watch Stone Cold and then flip over to.
That would be something.
Scooby Doo or whatever.
Because I don't think NBC is going to buy it, because they already got it on Peacock. So why would they bother buying it?
Yeah.
But Disney, if it's a entertainment venture, they'll buy it up. And there was talk of even about a $5 billion deal about a year and a half ago. And then there was some, whenever that much money is on the line, it always falls through. But I thought,
I'm sure income was weird back then.
Well, actually, that was one of WWE's most profitable years in its history, which is what makes it so
they were the
attractive.
only live. No, it wasn't WWE. I actually meant on the Disney side. They might have had a hard time coming up with the cash because they had to shut down the parks, the cruises, and all that stuff. They were bleeding close to $40 million a week for a stretch, and so they were running into issues. But anyway, I digress. You're right. WWE was very strong doing the Florida stuff. With empty, I think it was empty stadiums, right? They were just having
it was awful.
They were having matches without anybody there.
In front of TVs. But I remember there was one WrestleMania where there was literally no crowd. Nobody said anything. Nobody did anything. It was just like deathly quiet. And there was one guy's like, God damn, could they have just paid one cameraman to maybe cheer when the world champion's coming down to the ring? But also you'll get a kick out of this. Vince waited until 5:07 because keep in mind, WWE's a publicly traded company. We're a publicly traded company, pal. He waited until 5:07 on Friday to announce his retirement. And my first thought was like, that would damn near cause somebody from the SEC to almost want to fucking investigate that a little bit. But then I thought, well, he's already under investigation. What does it fucking matter now? Just as well try to not affect this, because he's still 80% shareholder. He still owns 80% of the company. So whatever Nick Khan can get for the sales price, that's still going to be like, Vince McMahon, because I'm pretty sure it was Nick Khan that pushed Vince McMahon out. But I'm pretty sure when he's sitting on a beach in a few years, he's going to be, Nick Khan's a son of a bitch. To Nick Khan, like that guy is gonna both kick him out of his company and almost made him a cash money billionaire at the same time.
Right. Yeah, that's complicated. I'm guessing that Triple H wants to get it sold. Then becomes an interesting question: who becomes the creative forces, behind all this? I mean, it's been the Vince show for so long.
Yeah, and that's the problem is everybody who wanted Vince out of the picture, like. You're about to see what pro wrestling is going to look like when corporate America gets its fucking hands on it, and it's going to be Like, so I shudder to think what wrestling's going to look like in a couple of years, but like, that's just the entertainment side of it. The business side of it's what's been getting all the headlines in this last week and a half, because like, yeah, this backstage intrigue is almost better than anything they present on their television show, because it's like, what the fuck? How much money? Like, there's ex wrestlers that are like, God damn, if I'd have known Vince is paying that much to fuck, like, I'd have, Jesus Christ, I'd have fucking angled for an NDA. Jesus, God Almighty. And so, like, but that also goes to show, folks in corporate America, sometimes it's not good to fucking house. Okay, like that can lead to some real problem. Like, Nate, you just read like yeah, we can all think of at least 3 or 4 times when that inappropriate. This isn't this is wrestling. No, that's Southern wrestling. It's a different thing.
So
Nate's like,
ultimately, what's going to happen next? It's really going to depend on how WWE finishes this year, because with the first time in 4 decades, Vince McMahon is not running the show, seemingly.
Right.
Now, people are speculating whether or not he's still behind the scenes, off book, pushing the product, which I could see him still having a pretty good input, at least until after
Stephanie's
this
gone.
show this Saturday. I don't know. But I have to think that he's probably, like, the thing about Vince McMahon is he's been running this thing for 4 decades, working straight for 4 decades. No days off, no nothing. Maybe some side projects, but that's just more work. He doesn't take vacation. He doesn't have hobbies. He doesn't go to the movies. He doesn't do anything except work and, well, work out. That's it. The job is life for him. Eating gets in the way of the job. And for the first time in 4 decades, he's jobless. So, like a lot of people, this is a pretty monumental, traumatic thing. Whether anybody wants to realize that or understand that or admit that, ignore that at your own peril. But this is big, because if he truly is 100% retired and he is no longer in any form of control, he lost the XFL. A lot of his other little hobbies haven't panned out over the decades. So this was it. He's not just going to become a family man now. All of his kids are grown, having kids of their own, have had kids of their own. His wife, if you can even call her that at this point, lives in another state. He doesn't have a lot going on. So this is a pretty traumatic thing to happen to the guy. Plus, we are at the tip of the iceberg as far as the allegations go, because if the guys are breaks, we're looking at deep impact levels of things that could come down the pike, because Vince, exactly like we were alluding earlier, hasn't exactly been a good boy over the years. Now, you can argue all you want his impact on the business. Now, he's been one of
looks
the
like
most
the
pivotal
video's
figures,
getting a little fuculated there,
maybe
folks.
the most pivotal, most consecutively over the years, pivotal linchpin of sports entertainment, because he took what was wrestling, where there was a level of reality to it, where people didn't just understand that it's scripted, that it's predetermined. And he made it, some people called it a laughing stock and a joke, because at the time wrestling was still very much real to people. And when he rose to power, it became more cartoony, it became more appealing to kids, it became more of a family show. Okay. He took his idea of wrestling, and then people tried to copy him. People began chasing him instead. And that essentially killed the business, because it is not anywhere close to what it was many, many, many years ago. Even in the 70s and 80s, people still very much believed that it was a real form of combat. And ever since then, people have just been chasing Vince and his idea of what wrestling is. Hell, wrestling is barely even mentioned. The word wrestling is barely mentioned on WWE programming. And for the first time in 4 decades, even that could change. So we could be seeing not just Vince retiring, we could be seeing Vince go through a lot of problems, if not something even more catastrophic.
Well, like, one thing I wanted to give kind of context, because what Tony was talking about there, Nate, was Vince McMahon in the 70s, 80s, and then the 90s. He took his one business, because there was a territory system across the entire United States. It was almost like unionism in entertainment. I don't know how else to explain it, the territory system. And what he did was he took his product national on television, and then he exposed the business. He went before a courtroom and said, what we do is predetermined, and exposed the entire business, destroying everybody else's business and ability to draw. He was already national. He was already on TV. He was the cartoon wrestling. And so he basically made himself a billionaire at the cost of a entire industry, and he made it himself. He made himself the entire industry there. So what Tony's talking about, how he destroyed the business, in a way, kind of, but he also turned it into Disney, if you will.
Well, and then how do you talk about the Attitude Era? Because even though it wasn't real, those like Mankind Rock fights were the most brutal. Like, there are UFC fights that are less brutal than what those guys were up to. But then he backed off. It seems like he went through different iterations, even of his own product. And the product that we have now is just different, right? I mean,
yeah, it's not even a shot. Like, that was the thing in the height of the Attitude Era. What people don't realize, because a lot of people came to be a fan, even for a short period of time, of wrestling during the Attitude Era, because of the insane popularity and TV numbers that not just WWE, but WCW was doing. I mean, between the two shows, we're talking a 15 on the Nielsen scale, which is absolutely insane.
NBA Finals type stuff every Monday.
Exactly.
Right.
It's
I
insane
agree.
numbers.
I was living in the South during the
people-
time. If you didn't watch Raw and Nitro, you had nothing to talk about that week.
Exactly. And it that was the thing, though. Once we hit the Attitude Era, it became so popular because everybody in every company was shoehorning everything in at one time. Like, they had, I'll be back.
He's got to deal with the children's, but yeah,
That
but
time
during
is always a good time.
But whenever you what you're talking about, yeah, the Attitude Era, they were pulling in ratings like Raw. I think its highest rating was a 10.4, so 10.4 million
by
people.
itself.
Yeah, and then there was one week where Raw got an 8.2 and Nitro got like an 8.3, and it like so
that's
16
like Michael
million
Jordan level of basketball. I mean, seriously, that's what he would pull.
No mention of WWF. Like, well, yeah, that's like, you got to remember, like, one of the other big reasons why I'm always big about, like, I don't know about saying that, guys, maybe we shouldn't talk about this, because I lived through the transition of WWF to WWE and how hardcore they were about, like, they would fuzz out any little WWF logo.
To
and
this day, they still do on the network, right?
And so it's like, you better make sure you get your branding and your copyright shit right the first time, because it'll bite even the biggest motherfuckers.
See, this is the thing. Like, everybody who wants to talk about wrestling, the first thing that jumps to your mind is, Monday Night Wars during the Attitude Era. And the reason they were so amazing was because the competition was so strong. For the first time ever in the history of the business, the competition was as strong as it's ever been. Now, the territory days of wrestling never saw this much popularity because there was nothing like
broad
it
appeal. I'd say like broad appeal.
You had no platform to be that popular. Most of the people that were watching during that era were seeing it live. They weren't watching on TV. They weren't able to watch something from across the country.
Hey man, I remember when DDP would come in and run circuits still, even during the Nitro days, right? He'd still come down on like a Thursday evening. I mean, now there's programming on Thursdays, but it was like Thursday evening. My buddies would all go get nosebleed seats and like take pictures of him and Macho Man John at each other just on a Thursday, right? I mean, they were still doing that stuff even as the wars were starting to rev up, because Ted Turner, I think, was still partial to that old kind of model. He wanted his boys out there 200 days a year. We're wrestling, right? I mean, that was the attitude.
Well, and that was the thing. They tried to copy so much. Like I said, everybody was chasing Vince. When Ted Turner became, owner of WCW, he was copying Vince's formula and then letting other people improve upon that. This wasn't like wrestling was just years prior, even within the same company. But once the competition got so strong and they were doing 8, 7s, and 8s on a weekly basis against each other, they had to keep raising the bar every week. And the damage they were doing to their bodies and the storylines they were doing.
Well, that's the thing. I think we ruined that generation of talent, more or less, right?
Well,
and as a consequence, we've become pretty soft in the presentation anymore.
That's part of it. That's part of it, but not just that. We had to reach such a level of shock and awe to outdo the competition. But not only that, they were doing so many different things every week for so many years. They kind of ran out of ideas. Now everybody's done everything.
Well,
everybody's seen anything.
WCW
Competition went away. Competition was gone. In
WCW's collapse is one of the most tragic things that's happened in American media.
Competition, Without competition and all those ideas being used up in a 3-4 year span. It took a massive downturn as soon as the competition was gone and the writers.
Well, and I
no
think
longer had
Eric
to try that
Bischoff has
hard.
done a little bit of mea culpa on that, is my recollection. He's done some recent, what do they call it? Straight shooting or something like that on these different podcasts.
Shoot interviews.
Yeah, shoot interviews. And he talks about the old days. And they tried to poach one of Vince's creative people, and they did successfully.
Vince Russo.
Yeah, and then once Russo came over, he and Bischoff were somehow, they were like exactly the wrong vibe. And they started doing the weird stuff like, who is that really dumb actor who had like 5 minutes of fame in the late 90s and he became world champ for one night?
David Arquette.
Yeah,
You're
David
giving
Arquette
me post-traumatic stress.
Well, no,
disorder
it was
like,
But yeah, back to the original point though of when you've got good competition and you're constantly trying to raise the bar. I actually thought WCW, when they brought in Rodman and the Mailman after the finals,
I fucking loved that.
I love that. They got Jay Leno in a couple of times, right? And then Vince got the
fucking hated
Trumpster.
That.
Well, yeah, Jay shouldn't have been there, but like the idea was
Jay
good.
Leno, he's gonna give it down.
Oh god, this was the joke. This was the joke. Here's the thing.
Here we go.
Drew Carey fucking was in the Royal Rumble one year. Here's what he did. He came out, he got in the ring, looked scared, nervous, and immediately jumped back out.
Right.
If Drew Carey had gone to WCW, they would have had him going over people who'd been there for 10 years, hitting them clean.
The Russo era was a disaster.
Well, that was the difference.
Okay, now
WWE
I want to talk about that. I
WCW.
totally agree with everything you're saying, and I just want to say the reason that wrestling for me was part of its timing. You've got to be at that right age to really like fully invest. I'm not gonna lie, like Roman Reigns is champion again. I'm like, I don't even care. Like,
it's better now. It's better now.
Well, that 2015 run was like, I was like, who thought this was a good idea?
Vince McMahon, the guy they just forced out.
Like the people were like booing Roman Reigns. They're trying to have him be a
he's like gotten so used,
and he's
to
acting
that
like he's Joe Babyface.
They did that with John Cena because it's the same formula. Once Vince had no competition, he could do and make the stars that he wanted. It was like Hulk Hogan all over again. But the fans were rejecting it. And that started with John Cena. And eventually, finally, after 15 years, they finally accepted John Cena to a certain degree. That was never going to happen with Roman Reigns unless he became a bad guy, which finally happened. At least Vince had that much foresight to go, okay, I guess we can let him be a bad guy now. That barely happened under his watch. But the point is that there has been competition the last 3 years, and it's not been the same level as WCW, but it's been an alternative product.
Okay,
and even then, WWE's product has completely still been nosediving. COVID had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Okay. And that. Who started the alternate league? Sorry, I'm not up on this.
It'd be Tony Khan, the son of the Jacksonville Jaguars owner. Sorry, what's his dad's name? Phil, I can't think of it.
I can't.
It's not Nick. That they're not related.
No. Tony Khan and Nick Khan, despite both they're not related.
Yeah.
But now we've actually been saying, like, well, for the first time since the 70s, now a couple of Khans are running the wrestling industry again. So,
that's hilarious.
But yeah, Tony Khan, basically his dad gave him $100 million of his inheritance early, and he took $50 million of it and he made AEW. And it's basically a bit of a vanity project, but also a, hey, look at me, Dad. Look what I can do with your money if you give it to me. And he's actually profitable, to his credit. It's not just a vanity project. He's actually making money off of it.
If they have
they poached any talent, or are they trying to grow talent themselves?
They grabbed Chris Jericho. That was
the Walls. Okay, good deal.
Yeah, and that was the big one. Everybody knew who he was.
He's a little past his prime. Is he commentating?
Oh boy, howdy!
He's a lot past it ever since this company launched. Like the first year, he was doing some pretty solid work. Since then, take any idea that he had over the last 20 years in WWE, and even they were saying, no, Chris, this sucks. Well, he gets to do it in AEW.
Well, I was going to say, like, what he's discovered in AEW is, like, you know what, guys? I think sit-ups are overrated. Like that's kind of what he's like.
That's become the shtick.
Yeah. Well, like, he's just
dad bod wrestlers. Let's go, dad bod. Let's go.
Yeah, he was pretty dad bod for a while.
Yeah. So that's what. But yeah, like, so they've been trying to grow some of their own talent. They got Cody Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes' son,
Well,
better
yeah,
known
but
as
I thought-
Stardust.
Well, they did. He's
Dusty
back in
just-
WWE.
Yeah, I think he just jumped because I thought that Dusty was sort of becoming like their up and coming guy, and then I think one of Vince's last acts was that I thought he just poached him.
Yeah, that was like, that and like signing one of the Paul brothers were like literally his last fucking acts in the company.
Yeah, he
was,
stole Cody Rhodes back from AEW, which
Well,
let's be
okay.
frank,
I want to get at something, and again, so the reason that wrestling holds such a place in my told this to Phil before is that the genre, the showmanship, the connection with a live audience,
the pageantry,
but also just it's almost like the ocean, right? You have this like natural welling up of emotion that
it's a
occurs.
spectacle. Yeah, you got to see
it. Is. It's really incredible, and I'm telling you, we're right at the very beginning of the Attitude Era when we had the Bret Hart Michaels fights all the way up to the screw job, the Montreal screw job.
Yep.
Like to me, that's actually what kind of starts to launch it. I know it's really Stone Cold and Goldberg and Sting and WCW and Undertaker, right? Like I know that that's really the core of it. But that some of those matches, I mean, you saw people that just they knew when the tension was building and the audience is there with you.
Between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels when they were doing faction warfare between the Hart Foundation and D-Generation X.
Yeah.
You had Canada and America legitimately biting
angry at each other.
Off.
Yeah. And then the Montreal screw job sort of, I mean, it was, it's
you
intense.
couldn't have wrote that stuff if you tried. Like that was just right place, right time, and the two right guys to do it.
Bret Hart
legitimately
pissed,
hated
Bill.
each other.
That was a legitimate screw job. The rumor is Undertaker when he was on. Oh man, he was on one of the.
It's not a rumor. That's 100%.
Yeah, Vince said,
was the
"If
bad
you want to hit me,
motherfucker in
you
the
hit
back."
me right now." And Bret Hart's like, "Fine," and laid him out. Well, I don't know if he laid him out, but he smashes him in the face. And Taker's like, "Oh, geez," like trying to stop the war.
Any of those stories usually include the Undertaker behind the scenes. Like, there's not a lot.
He was the glue guy. By the way, he was such a.
He was the muscle for Vince for 4 years.
Well, yeah,
but a long time.
Well, but I mean, you just hear about when
he was also the judge at Wrestler's Court. He was the locker room leader.
He
for
settled
sure.
all
Well,
disputes.
I like to think so. When Taker, let's see, when he did the American Badass character, right? When he was just rolling around on the bike, and they did the merger with WCW and WWE, and he and DDP, that was DDP's last feud was with him and Taker. It was awful. But it's just interesting to me because DDP came out of that knowing that the creative direction was a disaster, basically ruined his career.
He was always supposed to be Joe Everyman, who came in late in his age,
not a voyeur, not a goofy voyeur, and all
he was always a fan favorite, and
that's right.
Loved him for that.
Trying to turn,
and they made him be a
creepy
creepy stalker.
Disaster.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I was watching live that night when the big unmasking of Undertaker's wife, and I remember when it happens, like, "Hey, it's DDP." Oh no, DDP is involved in this.
Yeah, everyone knew. Everyone went, "Oh, this is wrong." Like everyone knew that was wrong. DDP knew it was wrong. Taker knew it was wrong, but they just sort of like gutted through it. DDP and Taker had one pretty good match because DDP still had something left in the tank, but Taker was like DDP's friend. I mean, like he got him through that on a personal level where he's like, "You're going to get paid. It's fine. We just got to suffer through this together. Well, there'll be other opportunities." Turns out there weren't, but Taker was sort of the guy who's trying to
that's the thing.
Keep everybody together.
It was such a different time because now there's only one promotion and Vince owns it. And yeah, sure, they had a couple of shows, but a brand split wasn't a thing. They didn't have 3 brands under the WWE banner at the time. It was just WWE. So you had all this influx of talent from not just WCW, but ECW and anywhere else in the world. You had to come to WWE. So they had so much talent. They literally did not know what to do with it. And many talented wrestlers had no shot at getting a break. And the ones that were either being completely mismanaged, and there were maybe a select group, a handful that came from WCW or ECW that actually broke through and succeeded in the company over the years because
part of that's
they
because
just weren't
the Triple H
talent.
factor, right? If you had personal relationships with Triple H, those personal relationships were almost as important as the in-ring.
Not just Triple H, but Vince.
More
because
so.
Vince also saw it as if I bring you in from WCW and I push you, that's a defeat on my part. I'm pushing a guy that I didn't build that got over somewhere else, and I just can't have that shit. So that's why they would come in and get beat.
Oh, that's a good insight. That's a good insight. Well,
that's
again,
the mind of Vince McMahon.
All right, now let's just talk about one other trend. So we don't have to talk about the specific personalities, but once Attitude Era is over and WWE and WCW combine into one, I feel like they just went straight milquetoast. Like, no offense to John Cena, he did some cool stuff, right?
Couldn't agree more.
He had some great moments, but if you just talk about the grind, the week in and week out live events, there was just so much milquetoast for like a decade, and it all kind of culminates with Roman Reigns in 2015, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, the thing is, people.
What I would say what happened is after the competition was gone, they didn't really need to care about the product so much as they needed to care about the shareholders.
Yeah,
and that was when
when
they became a publicly traded company. Now it's like what happens in the ring is almost incidental, inconsequential as far as the office is concerned, because Vince McMahon actually had in his office, his son-in-law Triple H actually gave him a giant T-Rex skull as a birthday present one year.
Like probably a real one, right? Like
a legit, like it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a real T-Rex skull, and he said, "This is to tell you, this is a lesson. You always have to feed the beast. The shareholders are the beast, and you always have to feed them." And so that was so Vince McMahon would look at that T-Rex and remember, I always have to feed the shareholders. Always got to make sure they got more money. Always got to keep them happy, because once you become a publicly traded company and you're an entertainment venue, you're basically just reputation managing at that point. You don't really care what the product you're putting out at that point.
Well, that's pretty pessimistic, but I understand the point. Right? I mean, but you basically just said anyone who's a public company is now a soulless corporate hack, and their product is probably awful. Is that what I just heard?
Well, in WWE world,
well, okay. Nate, I'm going to say it's that 95% that ruins it for that 5% of the good ones.
Okay.
Like that. So yeah, that's
so. Kind of with the layout of eras after the Attitude Era, people kind of forget that grew up with the Attitude Era. There was something called the Ruthless Aggression Era. Now, that's when Eric Bischoff came in and they put him in charge of Raw. They had a pretty good run of several years that people that were fans of the Attitude Era kind of brush off early, but now looking back, like, damn, that wasn't that bad. But it was just kind of a clashing of generations at that point. But after that, and they started transitioning into the PG era, when they went TV PG, that's when the product really, really got just very, very vanilla, and the competition couldn't be lower. Meanwhile,
I'll tell you, do you guys remember who was what was his name? Mr. Pimp. It was a guy who'd bring out 4 prostitutes with him every time.
Godfather.
The Godfather. The Ho Train. That's right. He had purple pants and the cane and all that. Like, I thought if you wanted to go a little more milquetoast on the sexually explicit stuff, or like the Sable nightgown match, as a 13-year-old boy, very interested. Yeah. Very interested. However,
they weren't doing that in the PG era.
No, but right, that's the thing. So if you were to say, like, what are the things that I remember from Attitude Era? It's not really the more suggestive content. It's it's Undertaker, Mankind through the cage, 2 stories.
It was the uber violence, yes.
Yeah. Or even some of the, it wasn't just uber violence. It was some of the characters too. Like when Sting would come down from the rafters and take on 4 dudes at once with a baseball bat. Right? Like,
it was kind of
the moments.
Sports entertainment, because this was what Vince McMahon wanted all along. This was the vision that Vince McMahon had all along. Like Hulk Hogan was the only real successful character that worked on a large scale, because everybody else was just such a caricature that people kind of rejected it from anybody who was a fan of another promotion at that time. Like Hulk Hogan kind of transcended that and really was the kickoff to sports entertainment.
Right. Okay. By the way, that's
the early 90s.
That's a conversation for another day. Who has a bigger influence on wrestling? Is it
we can have that
or
debate
Vince?
Another time.
That's a debate for another day.
We'll have that debate another time. But the early to mid 90s,
Hulk Hogan was Homelander of the 80s, okay?
No, the early 90s.
His title run was over 1,000 days, Phil. You get that.
We'll have that debate another time.
Out of your mouth.
Phil, stop it. We'll debate this another time. But that's the thing. The early 90s were very unprofitable, especially for WWF, just for wrestling as a whole. It was not popular. It was not interesting. And WWF being one of the top companies, They were pushing people who were dentists, who were dumpster truck drivers, who were hockey players. Everybody had to be a stupid caricature.
Right.
And this was kind of coming off the heels of Hulk Hogan. And when he left WWF to go to WCW, even Hulk Hogan, the red and yellow, wasn't getting over in WCW. People were sick of it. And that's really the jumping off point when he turned heel, the NWO, Sting going black and white, and then WWF turning Jerry Springer, DX, Stone Cold The Rock. That's when it changed.
The good old days.
And everything was happening at once.
Dang.
It was a
Was
demolition derby.
This is my question. Is that lightning in a bottle, or could those days come back in a new iteration?
Well,
you're not going to be able to pull 8.4 ratings on television because nothing pulls 8.4.
I just mean anymore. In terms of the quality of the product. I don't care if anybody else is watching.
No,
if just the three of us are watching it. Can we get that level of product again?
I don't think so, because for WWF at the time specifically, they lucked into two of the most iconic superstars of all time in The Rock and Stone Cold, and they had them at the same time, literally battling each other, and you couldn't pray for something as big as those two brought to the table in terms of revenue, eyeballs, and just legacy.
Well, and
to
WCW
have that at the same time, well, WCW had a massive roster, celebrities, and guaranteed payday contracts, so they could have almost anybody they wanted. And
man, Max Hall got paid a lot, or no, not Max Hall. Chris
Scott Hall and Kevin
Scott
Nash.
Hall and freaking Nash. They got paid.
You'll love this. In their contracts, they had what was called a favored nation clause in their contract. So if anybody got paid any amount greater, like they had to be paid 20% more than anyone else, any other talent in the company. So they would always be like, "Oh, Stinger, you're worth way more money. You need to really negotiate on your contract." And so they were trying to get everybody's money up as high as they could because they were favored nation. Didn't matter what they were making, they would be making 20% more.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And by the way, Nash didn't work. Like, do you remember Nash? He would
as little as possible.
He worked.
He would wrestle, but when he did wrestle, he'd get hurt. So
I was about to say that man needs to be given an award for getting more money for doing less work than anybody in the business.
Oh my gosh,
he's successful WWF champion of all time.
Yeah, and it was unreal to me how often he would just be the cleanup guy, come out, throw some power bombs.
That's all he could do.
Woo, go NWO and then walk out.
Had
and he's
5 moves total,
$500,000.
and one was a hair flip.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I gotta make a phone call.
No, do your thing. Yeah, but anyway, let's just think what the elements of the Attitude Era. Part of the Attitude Era, though, was also the 90s itself needed wrestling, right?
Well, so that's the thing. We were used to watching Cops, Jerry Springer. Things were getting very outlandish. So the product of WWE being outlandish and having these big, larger-than-life characters worked for that era.
That's right.
They had the talent to go along with it to pull it off, because they were not just making them be crazy cartoon characters. They were letting them be themselves, but turn it up a notch. So that's why it worked. And then creative and the story writing was just ridiculous. So it was right place, right time, right people. The reason it wouldn't work like that today, one, you can't duplicate TV eyeballs like that anymore. You just can't. Like, even at this point, the NFL numbers are dwindling because people can watch stuff on the internet. You can't grade things on a Nielsen scale anymore. It's not the same era anymore. So the internet being as big as it is now and bigger in the future, we know that's coming. TV is going to eventually fizzle out. You just can't replicate that.
Was that Vince McMahon, Phil? Did you have to call Vince to see if we could say WWF instead of WWE? Is that what you're doing?
Well, yeah. I mean,
what did the Vinster say?
He said, "Oh, you're talking about wrestling, pal. Could you maybe get me a line of Nick Khan? Maybe we could talk this out. We could maybe discuss this." Like, yeah, no.
But I think the second reason
we could probably get him on the show now, T.
Oh, we'll save that for episode 150, Phil. But I think the second reason that it won't work, not just because of the TV, but because in the mid to late 90s, we were still essentially coming off of the heels of people across the nation truly understanding that, yes, this is a scripted endeavor. This is predetermined. This is not technically real. That's been well established now for that much longer. And not just that, but they're not. None of the wrestlers today are committed to their character. None of them.
Oh, that's
if you see them outside, you see, hell, you can go to their Twitter page, you can go to their Instagram, and you can see the real them with their real name. There's no commitment to kayfabe. There's the curtain has been pulled back and burnt to a crisp. You can see that real person. So it's just an actor playing a bit in a movie now. So you can't connect with that character.
Well, okay, I agree that changes the nature. That changes the nature of it, and so and also to your first point,
this changes the investment level.
Well, sure, but then if we also just sort of mention too that the cultural moment has passed, where everything sort of came together. In a sense, wrestling was reality TV before reality TV took off, right? And so that's one of those things. It sort of had a special moment. That's the lightning in the bottle piece. My thinking is, if the way that politics has incorporated the Vince McMahon isms into itself tells me there's still a hunger for a high quality product that has correct razz pizzazz. And so to my way of thinking, and that might be it, you might need to up the kayfabe level again, right? We need to
hard to come back from that now, though.
I agree, because what we're saying is you're asking the audience to sort of buy in a way that is right. You need to forget that it's fake. But could you just at least get it from the talent? Could the talent get better kayfabbing?
You kind of have to do that.
Like, what we have, the biggest problem is, like Tony was alluding to this, is we have feuding talent, people who are supposed to be hating each other on national television, wishing each other happy birthday on their Twitter. If one guy accidentally injures another guy in a wrestling match, you'll have a fucking candlelight vigil by his bedside. Oh, I'm so sorry. Rather than saying, yeah, you're injured. Guess what? That's what happens when you fuck with me. Like, that's what you should do.
Buy in. So a higher level of buy-in to kayfabe. I like that. I think that is one of the keys.
That's Stone Cold.
Right. Stone Cold was Stone Cold, right? Like, he was not your friend in any circumstance.
Like, I'll never forget when they did the Mania of WrestleMania, a documentary about WrestleMania 19. They released it for WrestleMania 20.
Beautiful.
And then Stone Cold says, Vince McMahon, one of my best friends. I'd do just about anything for that guy. And like, even then at that point, like I was like fucking 19, 20 years old hearing this, like, what? They're actually like that. Like, I couldn't believe, because Stone Cold was so committed. You'd never hear him say happy birthday, Vince. Like.
But that was also Stone Cold Steve Austin glaring at the doom of retirement, and he had no fucks left to give. And even at that point, he was just like, I got to get through this match. I just hope I get through the match without keeling over in the fucking middle of the ring. So he didn't care.
His neck was so messed up.
It wasn't just the neck. He was just strung out mentally and physically.
Yeah, none of those guys will ever come clean as to which chemicals they were putting into which body part when. I mean, but that's got to be part of this too.
And I hate to say it, but that's another thing that's different now.
That's usually the answer.
Yeah, so let's talk about that too. Let's talk about the physiques right now of a lot of the talent.
Oh,
I feel like
that's twofold.
Could wrestlers get any fucking smaller? Oh my god! Like,
if
it's the
turn on an episode of
right?
AEW.
They've gone for cut over girth.
Oh no!
Right? I mean,
no! Turn on an episode of AEW. Physiques don't matter now.
Oh, they don't.
I'm taller than some of the motherfuckers on AEW, and that's not a joke. And I'm not a tall guy.
So we don't have the giants in there anymore.
Because here's the thing.
No, when one of the giants from WWE comes in, they tower over the other guys. It's all about being flat. Like, this is the thing. Like, the product besides WWE, all the other wrestling companies have gone away from the sports entertainment and opted for what I like to call Cirque du Soleil. The psychology
so it's
of the
acrobatics.
match. Yeah, it's acrobatics. Psychology doesn't matter. 500-pound, 7-foot guy can have an Iron Man match with 5'7", 180-pound guy, and we're just supposed to believe that they're evenly matched.
That's a disaster. Why are they allowing
It's ludicrous.
This is terrible.
Exactly.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like, I remember in the late 90s, I talked to a wrestling trainer, and he taught me how to, tie up and how to bounce off the ropes. And that was about it. So that was $120 well spent. But when I asked him what he thought, like, I'm 6'3", and then the late 90s Attitude Era, I was kind of on the smallish side,
Yeah.
honestly, of wrestlers. But by today's standards, I'd be downright gargantuan
Yes.
compared to a lot of the kids that are now getting out there now. So that's one of the problems. Now, again, you can't get too roid jacked. People will
No, for
notice
sure.
that.
Like there were certain talents in the 90s where you could tell. I mean, Benoit.
Ultimate
I mean, we don't
Warrior.
need to rehash a bunch of this
No.
stuff. Like obviously they were being very self-destructive and dangerous, even, right? So like obviously there's limits to that. And I want to have good technical wrestling. Like I don't want to just. I mean, Goldberg, love him. He's got a great thing, but like just the technicals are not good. You got like three or four things, right? That's it. Bret Hart, complete package. Power moves, finesse, aerials, ground game. I mean, unreal. Some of those Canadian wrestling families.
Thanks, Goldberg, for cutting that about 10 years short.
Well, I went back and watched that again, and I don't know how much.
No, Bret Hart got like concussed from the front of his head and the back.
No, I remember. That's what I mean.
Early in the match, he dropped on the back of his head before getting kicked in the front.
What really did it though was Bret getting back in the ring a week later, and then 2 weeks later, and he that was what basically ended his career. So, like to me, like I really get it, but Bret was one of the best. When he said he's the best there, unfortunately, because like Tony is saying, we may never have the quality of wrestling like we used to. Bret Hart's phrase may actually be true, that he is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
And that's a disaster. True. This is okay. So here are my 3 recommendations for the wrestling product. Get bought into KFAB on the talent level. You can't get the audience there, but you can get your characters to have better longevity and buy in. Tell them in contract, no social media. I don't want you showing up to stuff, kissing babies. If you're a heel, you're a heel, and you're going to be a heel in public and in private. You're going to be a heel. It's a 5-year contract. Suck it up. We're paying you good money. So I want the KFAB up. That's number 1.
You should check out MJF.
Yeah. Okay. I will. Number two. I think that I want to have I want to have good technical wrestling like we were sort of at the peak in the mid-90s. Okay. I want to have a variety, and I want big, larger than life physiques and bodies. I understand, like I love the Hispanic community and the Hispanic culture. I love lucha libre and all that kind of stuff. That is a different entity than what we're talking about. Yeah, if you want to do lucha stuff, that is cool. And I think that the aerials and stuff that they do is awesome. That is not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm here for. The third thing I think they have to do is they need to be willing to make people uncomfortable again. There were people who were uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be sexually explicit. Fine. Like, I agree. I don't want an LGBTQ trans woman coming out and swinging their dick around. Okay. This is no good. I'm not saying push the envelope, but I'm saying be willing to make people uncomfortable. Yeah. And so that if that means you got a guy who comes out with a beer and a MAGA hat and is a little bit snake bit, you got to let that run. You got to let a guy who really believes he's out there to stop global warming. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Go make people uncomfortable again. Mankind, every match, it was uncomfortable. Whether he was Dude Love, whether he was Mankind, he was getting his teeth kicked in.
It's engaging.
And it made you uncomfortable. But that mixed with the KFAB, right, being authentically uncomfortable, mixed with a really bought-in character, I think that's what changed. Is that the KFAB went down, and we said we're going to be milquetoast. Don't do a move that might make people uncomfortable. Get rid of the chairs because it's too much. Don't cut anymore, right? Don't hide like the really big bloody matches. Like, they're just gone, and that's a mistake. That's a mistake.
They do it on AEW, and they do it very poorly. Chris Jericho just did it the other day.
Blood is very much a commodity in the wrestling business because it's so visual. When you see somebody that's like blood, they call it the crimson mask. But like, no, it actually exactly to what you were talking about, how we need some more controversy. We need a little bit of division, and we need, like you said, to be made uncomfortable. There was a wrestler in AEW. She was the women's champion during 2020. So this is during the presidential campaign. Nyla Rose, and she's a trans woman, was born a man and is now a woman, and she made no attempt to hide this, was very open and public about it, would talk about it on her Twitter. The only time it was never mentioned was on the major network television show that she was featured on every week. The way they should have done that is they put the belt on her, and then guess what?
Boom.
You have a controversy. It can go one way or another. You can have people say, I'm for it,
God.
I'm against it. And goddamn, a little bit of controversy and maybe even a little bit of
a little bit of
discomfort.
tribalism. Like, just
Yes.
go ahead and embrace. We're a deeply divided nation. Give the two divides people to root for. Like, I don't know. Is that like, look,
Donald Trump and Joe Biden should have known her name. You know what I mean? Like, that's how fucking hard they should have.
Yeah, and your world champion, right? Your unified champion, if you're WWE, needs to be a household name, and you can't do that unless you're engaged in some of the cultural conflict that is happening. Right? Like, you just can't. You got to embrace that's our cultural moment. If you are ignorant to the cultural moment, then you're going to fall flat. In the late 90s, they were not ignorant to the cultural moment. By the mid 2000s, by the great financial crisis, they were. I mean, how cool would it have been if they had like a group of like borderline homeless talent that were like busting up and pulling like a Bane, and we're stealing Vince's money and like handing it out to the audience and embracing the moment? That might have been too much over the top, but you get what I mean. Like, recognize
they legitimately,
the
I think, did that with Donald Trump when they had him on.
Well, hilarious. But you got to get committed. Like,
threw around
you
Vince's money into the audience. I'm not going to throw my own money. Are you kidding me?
Right? There's Ukrainian war right now. Have a Russian talent and a Ukrainian talent, and let people get like, come on, embrace the freaking moment, people. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's why
I've got a comment in the comments. We're gonna get onto this next, so we're gonna wrap this portion up and get onto this. But this is a precursor to it, folks. I can't believe this is here, but the vice president herself. Hello, Vice President of the United States here. I'm wearing a blue dress, and my pronouns are she and her. We must address the reasons to address the issues that must be addressed in order to address. Now, I couldn't have said it better myself. That is going to be coming up next as we round up this.
Don't embrace that moment, Vince, or whoever is. Don't embrace the Kamala Harris. I'm going to come out and say I'm wearing spandex right now.
Oh,
we're going to talk about it just a minute. We're going to round this out first.
Give me a 5-minute warning before we get to recession so I can send a message to Tiberius, because he's like, I don't know anything about wrestling. Phil.
No, that's fine. Here, just send him in. We'll wrap this up in under 5 minutes.
Well,
guys, it's 10 p.m. in Omaha. Some of us try to get to bed on time. That's me. I gotta bounce. If Ty is coming on, just make sure Ty talks to you about the 10-year Treasury note and what the yield is if you're going to talk about recession. That's all I got to say.
Nice. Well, if you are going to leave us, we will give you the final word on Vincent Kennedy McMahon and, of course, and this whole craziness, what you think the economy is going to be looking like in the next few months, and where can folks find you on this weird, wild, wacky place called the net. Now, if you want to stick around, God bless. But if you got to get going because you're such a high-powered lawyer that, basically like Rudy Giuliani's like, I've got nothing. Nate, can you help me? Can you help me out here? Like all the high-powered lawyers.
Right now, Rudy's star has fallen so much. I might be able to help him out. But no. All right. So hot takes. The hot takes go like this. Vince's name will go down in infamy and fame. There is no question that he didn't just have an impact on wrestling. He had an impact on media generally, especially when it comes to the reality TV genre. I really do think that he doesn't get enough credit for creating an environment. It was him and The Real World on MTV. Do you remember that? Yeah. This Attitude Era was rising up at the exact same time as The Real World, right before Survivor. And I think that Vince was ahead of his time. And I think that his understanding of live and audience and pageantry and understanding and moving with an audience in a flow has changed our politics. And he doesn't get credit for that. He should. And I'm sure he was kind of a scumball a lot of the time. But you know what? That's how it is sometimes.
He was a shark. He was just a shark.
He was just a shark. And humans are complicated, messy creatures. He can be both brilliant and kind of a scuzzball. That's possible. As a matter of fact, I think that's what's going on.
He's God and the devil all wrapped up into one package.
All into one very horse steroid-laden package at age 77. So that's my take on that. I think when it comes to the economy, Phil, you've been on this. I mean, you declared us in recession, I think, in like March, and it just took the rest of the country to realize it till July, and the Biden administration still is in denial about it. I think that the short term will continue to sort of coast along as we've been. I think that once we get into the spring of 2023, there will be enormous pressure on the new Congress and the new Senate to cut checks. I think that we're going to enter a real problem come spring 2023. I think that even December, January, February, it's going to be a little bit rough. I think Phil could talk about this at length. How are yields looking right now, Phil? Are we going to be able to feed the planet?
Depends if you have irrigation or not.
Right.
We've had
Plenty
a
of
really
bodies
hot
around. We can turn to cannibalism.
We've had a
It'll be
really
fun.
hot
Oh,
summer.
geez.
There's some farmers who've probably had their crops burn up. We've had some rains in areas, basically in Tiberius'
wrong
neck of
time.
the woods,
Right.
in the Indianas, but they always get fucking rain. So like, that's never. We always joke if the price of grain has gone down a little bit. Oh, they must have a wet sidewalk somewhere on Chicago. All the day traders are flipping out, like, "Oh my god, it's raining!" Just because it rains a little bit in Chicago, that'll actually change the grain price. But yeah, I think the food shortages are a very real potential thing. What the thing is, we're not really feeling a regular kind of inflation. This is something I was going to get into a little later with Ty. What we're getting is what I call cost push inflation.
Absolutely. You hold to that. If anybody tells you different, Phil, say no. Nate Dallin told me I was right.
Well, goddamn, I don't need anything else from that. And a part of that is also, as much as I hate to say, the idea of the Green New Deal and the green energy that we have.
Disastrous.
Doesn't come without a cost.
Hunger.
There is a reason.
The cost is hunger and bodies.
Well, we're feeling that cost. We're seeing it in the cost of everything.
Okay,
now,
look.
So
I'll just tell you, unless the U.S. has a really good yield year across pretty much the whole market, so this means from the plains to the true Midwest to Texas, if the whole Mississippi River system can't produce, I think there's a real crisis. Luckily, to Phil's point, it's not going to come home to roost in the U.S. I think that it's more likely to come home to roost in countries that are vulnerable, that rely on international markets to feed their own people. And it's going to be a real big problem, right? That's going to be a real big problem. And it will. I think the greenies are going to get what they want, which is a dead population. Guess what? If you kill 1 billion people, they can't pollute anymore. And I think it's one of the most morally repugnant positions that's been taken by the New World Order yet. And that's the path that we're on. And I think it's insane. The Netherlands, they can't farm right now. Their farmers are dumping manure on freeways to stop traffic, to bring awareness to the fact that 500-year-old farming techniques are now illegal in the Netherlands. And like, I understand. I want to be a person who is a good steward of the earth. I'm a Jesus-loving person. I do believe that God's creation needs to be taken care of. I want to be on that team. But if these are the terms to take care of the planet, I'm out. I cannot be a part of a group or an institution that thinks that starvation is the path by which we're going to get to a better world at the expense of human life. That's insane. So it just has to stop. And so to my way of thinking, this is our number one issue. It's going to cause huge immigration, crazy patterns. It's going to disrupt tens of millions, probably billions of lives. And we're just going to chuckle. We're just going to have our elites chuckling. Sri Lanka.
The carbon they want to reduce, folks, is you.
Yes. Right? Yes.
Like that they just see you as polluting fucking beasts.
That's right. But you're not worthy. Your children, it's immoral for us to have children. They look at our children as immoral creatures because we're here to pollute the planet. And the planet is more important than human life. And that's not true. We need to be good stewards. But absolutely not.
Sickness overtakes somebody to think that. Like,
gosh, dang, I know. It is wild. So I hate to get fired up about this, but I think if the U.S. doesn't have great yields this year, the world is in a world of hurt. We're going to be all right, right? We're going to be all right. But there's a deficit and a shortage worldwide. And if the heartland can't make up the difference, we're host. So that's all.
Yeah,
gentlemen, I love you. I appreciate your willingness to have me on to talk about the Attitude Era. Oh,
anytime.
Yeah, you like I've said many times. You're welcome anytime here, Nate. But yes, I believe they can find you at Nate Dallon on Twitter. Is that it?
At Nathan Nathan Dallon Dallon. That's it. At Nathan Dallon. That's me.
Well, thank you.
I've got green hair on Twitter. Don't freak out. It's green. It's a marketing ploy. Everyone remembers the green-haired guy in a suit. So
Well, sir, we will let you
There.
get back to your high-level lawyeries that you got to get done and all of the lawyering that comes with it. So good luck to you, sir, and I can't wait to catch you on the flip side.
Peace out.
Peace.
All right.
Alrighty.
So we're going to round this out with the Vince talk, and then we are shifting to Kamala. I have another story, and then we're going to talk recession, but we're going to bring somebody else in, I believe, here shortly. So we're going to wrap up the Vince McMahon talk. So, Phil, go ahead real quick.
Shit, I was on mute there. Oh, shit. Hey, Manny. I'm going to say, wrapping up the Vince talk here. Hang on. Just go ahead, T.
Okay, go ahead. All right. So, for one, I'm going to apologize in advance right now for myself and Mr. K.O.E. over here for essentially being one of the reasons that wrestlers are as untrained and tiny as they are today, because we kind of LARPed through the late 90s and mid 2000s as professional wrestlers, and a lot of those people ended up getting signed by AEW. So that's kind of on us. Sorry about that. But I digress. Vince, regardless of the allegations, and there are plenty, and there's going to be plenty more, and there's going to be plenty that we never even fucking hear about, the man is a titan of the industry. And you cannot argue this, regardless if you liked his product over the last 40 years, regardless if you respected his business prowess, regardless if you even liked the man personally if you met him. You cannot deny not only the impact, but the foresight that he had to take advantage every chance he get. He saw opportunity around every corner, and even though he had many flops, the man had so many home runs that we often forget just how right on he was more often than not because of all the other filler that there was. Like, you listen to an album and you go, my God, there's 2 or 3 fucking amazing songs that are going to live with me till the day I die, and I will play those forever. That's what Vince was. He had a lot of filler songs, but he had a lot of fucking hits. So
like
really,
Stand Back.
like Stand Back. But yeah, Vince McMahon no longer being in control of wrestling is just a very sobering concept of the aging process that we'll all have to get used to, because as the year continues and we go into the next and we see what really happens with WWE, does it get sold? Regardless, like, this is uncharted waters for the first time in many of people's lifetimes involving wrestling. If you're a fan, if you watch WWE or not, doesn't matter. The impact of Vince McMahon stepping down for the first time in 40 years, not being in control. This is a monumental occasion, and whether you're celebrating or grieving, doesn't really matter. This is a landmark. Don't forget where you were when you heard that news. It's wild. Phil,
you know, it's weird that you say that, Tony, whether you're celebrating or grieving, because there are people, because this does feel like a loss for a lot of people, because you got to remember, television personalities are people that we invite into our home every week. And so in a weird way, fans all feel like they have some sort of personal relationship with their television personalities. It's not real, but it's something that has always connected. Now, I had you mentioned grieving, T, and I was talking to you about this the other night, actually earlier today, this afternoon. I sent you guys a message because, like, as a note, and I'm sure many of you may know, my dog died last week. It was really unfortunate and really sad, and, you know, everybody raise a glass, not only to my dog, but to all of the great dogs that you've all had that you've lost as well. Raise a glass to them all. But, like, what happens is that dog went with me everywhere, with my little road dog, and it would jump over the seat, jump over my lap, and jump out the truck. And that was just our thing for the last 4 years. That was just how that worked. And it was almost like muscle memory. And for, like, the next week, I had to, like, get used to the idea that there was not going to be any dog jumping across my lap. And it was like muscle memory. And a weird thing happened with Vince McMahon, thinking about that, where I was going over predictions for SummerSlam, and I was thinking, well, okay, all right, Bobby Lashley. Is Bobby Lashley going to be able to take the W here? Well, of course Bobby Lashley's going to win. I mean, Vince McMahon always... Wait, that's right. He's not in control anymore. And like, as much as I hate to say, like, I had kind of like that muscle memory twitch, like expecting my dog to jump across my lap. It was the strangest thing. And so I don't know what the word is for it, Tony. I don't, because it's not quite mourning, because like, I mean, I've had one fuck of a year. I've been through some real mourning. But like, this is one of those things where it's like, I don't know what the right fucking word is for it, but it's also like watching Undertaker lose a streak at Mania. We all had to now acknowledge the Undertaker is human. And no,
you didn't even want to believe that text when I sent that out.
No, I said, fuck you. You're fucking lying. And like, I was one of the, like, if I would have been there live, I would have been one of those people that was like angry and like, oh, like,
you would have been one of the memed people in the crowd.
Like that dude who's like, the dude with the glasses that just like his eyes are like this, like, that I'd have been standing right next to him, like, what the fuck? Like, so this is something very similar. But folks, we will cover this and much more over at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on Saturday. So if you want to get
we've got a lot more Vince talk to talk about. Like, this is just tip of the iceberg. So we've got plenty of content coming down the pike at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, which I am the 13th-time champ of. Go over there, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, all that. We'll see you on Saturday for SummerSlam.
But moving onward and
cut. Boom. Okay. Now, folks, back to the other shit. Here we go. Phil, send that warning out if you haven't already.
I just did. I told Ty basically, get here whenever you want. We'll start talking about the recession. He hasn't got back to me yet, so we'll see what happens. But we are ready. We
had in the comments just a little bit ago. Hello, Vice President of the United States here. I'm wearing a blue dress and my pronouns are she and her. We must address the reasons to address the issues that must be addressed in order to address, Phil, Kamala Harris's blue suit. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
I have heard about it, T. Apparently,
did you see about it?
No, I haven't seen the suit in and of itself. I've just heard about it. So now, is this going to be like Obama's? Oh my God. I was going to say, is this going to be like Obama's olive suit that, like, in theory should have worked well, but like, oh no. Now, actually, wait, Tony, while you get into this, I have something I need to announce to all you beautiful people at home.
Okay. Go ahead.
We have another run-in, another guest, a man you need to see and a place that you need to be. And it is the podcast for you and me, the Mask Off Podcast with Tiberius motherfucking D. How we doing, Ty? Welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Appreciate it. I'm trying to set up my recorder here and I couldn't get it up in time. I'm being absolutely terrible.
Oh my God. Don't worry about it. So have you heard of Blue Dress Gate?
No, but is this a Clinton or a Monica Lewinsky reference? Is that where you're getting at?
No. God, I wish.
Well,
God, I wish.
Ty, you accidentally wrote a setup to a great joke there. Oh my God. We got Kamala in the blue dress, Monica, like, that's like, oh boy. I might have to steal that one. That's perfect. But yeah, we were just getting into the blue dress gate. So T, why don't we get right into the meat of the matter so that we can give everybody a lesson to get over their recession depression.
Okay, so I'm trying to pull up the clip here because this does bear. You've got to see this. Okay, so
it's like an NPC talking.
All right, so here's the story. This is coming from the Atlantic. So Kamala Harris, she's awesome in everything she does, right? Yesterday, Vice President Kamala Harris briefly caused a significant portion of the social media world to think that she was hopelessly liberal or simply out of her mind. At a recorded roundtable event in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, she introduced herself by saying, "I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit." Don't believe me? Don't believe me? Does that sound too fantastical?
I have actually seen the video of this.
Okay,
I usually
play it.
It's like the blankest NPC like response I've ever heard. Like,
oh, Phil, here you got to hear it now. Please tell me if you can hear this.
Good afternoon.
And then another
I'd like
picture
to
in the
welcome
picture.
these leaders for coming in to have
Thank
this
you.
very important discussion.
Very important discussion
About some of the most
about
pressing issues
the most
of our
pressing
time.
issues of our time.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman
Kamala
sitting
Harris
at
bot.
the table wearing a
My pronouns
blue
are she,
suit.
her.
And
I'm wearing a blue dress at
Yeah,
a table.
that'll do.
Matt Walsh should be like, well, what is a woman? What is it? Answer me.
I'm more intrigued by why she
That's the
felt
worst
need
Matt Walsh
to
impression, but I love it.
describe it with such just tenacity. I'll continue. Not since Mitt Romney, as a Utah Senate candidate, announced that his favorite word was hot dog. That was a thing. As a factual statement made a politician sound so much like she was from outer space. Was anyone in the audience unaware of Kamala Harris's pronouns and that she is a woman? Most puzzling was the end of the clip where she described her attire for no apparent reason, then flicked her tongue across her eyeball and adjusted her notes with a dorsal tentacle. Okay, I made that last part up. As usual,
did you though?
Context helps. Harris's event was held in the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act and focused the effect of new abortion restrictions on the disabled. One convention meant to accommodate blind and visually impaired audiences. A brief self-description by the speaker. And I'm just going to stop it there. I'm sorry, but did they really just try to justify why she felt the need to describe the blue suit in question by color to blind people who don't even know what the fucking concept of blue is?
That's the folks who are born blind, yes, but
which I understand. Not everybody was born blind, but come the fuck on.
Well,
this woman is an idiot.
Oh boy.
Am I wrong?
She's one heartbeat
Hi,
away from
Hi, I'm Tony fucking G. My pronouns are he and his, and I'm wearing a Corona shirt. Did that help anybody?
I'm sure
all of you out there in
there.
Spotify land, did you give a flying fuck? No, you didn't.
I'm wearing a dusty work shirt. But like,
yes, you
to
are.
me, I think that's
what are you wearing? What are you wearing below the waist? I'm just curious for personal reasons.
Sweats.
They better be gray sweats.
I'm wearing blue jeans.
Nice.
Ah, you tease.
Nice. Even dressed up for the podcast. I appreciate that.
She didn't say cis woman. What a bigot.
Oh, you can never win.
What if they identify as blind? Well, clearly exercising his privilege.
Well, don't worry, Stephen, because according to the Biden administration, the economy is self-identifying as not in recession. So
true.
Oh my god. Man, I gotta break that shit down. That is something. Like
that is something, ain't it though? So, well, T, final thoughts on Blue Dress Gate 2.0.
We're just cracking the surface. There's so much to undress here.
Ha ha.
Waka waka.
Yeah, no, that just cracked me the fuck up. Like, I'm sorry. This woman is like, has anybody contributed less than this woman? I can't.
Yeah, Joe Biden.
Damn, beat me to it. Well done.
Yes. All right.
Well done.
So that was a volleyball setup for a big spike over the net. You guys nailed it.
I do what I can.
Well done. Well, but yeah.
All right.
He's been so
that was short and sweet. Hey, chicken, there you go. There was a short clip for you to edit out. Enjoy. You're welcome for once. All right, let's get into this one before we jump into the economy. This should be pretty quick. Folks, you've been seeing it scrolling down the bottom, and your curiosity's gotten the better of you, I'm sure. We got to talk about this quick. Here we go. I'm going to scroll quickly. Influencer Laura Ferreira, I think is how that's pronounced, claims she was kicked out of a supermarket for being too hot, claims the New York Post. There she is for reference. An influencer has claimed she was kicked out of a U.S. supermarket for being, quote unquote, hot and wearing revealing clothing. Brazilian woman Laura Ferreira said she was shopping in Miami when a supermarket employee approached her and asked the content creator to leave the store. She claimed he recognized her from her OnlyFans account and assumed she would be showing off in the store and filming it. Ferreira said she was alone in the supermarket, which she didn't name, didn't reveal what she was wearing at the time, adding she believes she was kicked out for being hot. I felt humiliated. I was in shock when he took me out of the market screaming. My look was not scandalous. I wear it in Brazil on a daily basis. That doesn't actually sound good. And I never went through that, she told a UK publication. Whoop, there we go. Jesus. New York Post.
Well, I was about to say, like,
pick choice. Wow.
Like,
Wow.
the thing you got to remember is like Brazilian and Colombian chicks, like they, like what we would consider like underwear, they consider like outdoor day clothes. Like they don't.
I was gonna say it's acceptable in Brazil. Is like not a go-to statement.
Now, don't get me wrong, ladies. Feel free to show yourself off in whatever way you want around me. Don't go shopping at prudegrocer.com or whoever the fuck this is. So, but
to quote the Fumbled Penis podcast, don't go to Dollar General looking like a whore. You're gonna get treated like one.
Jesus.
Sorry, big shout out to the Fumbled Penis podcast, which has been showing yours truly, Tony fucking G, a lot of love.
What the hell did I walk into?
I ask myself that every week.
I know the word "selling" that just came out of my mouth made no sense.
I thought we were professionals here. I need to retire.
Sure, boy. I'm sorry if I misrepresented us as professionals. That was my bad. I defrauded you, good sir. But so this chick is claiming she got kicked out for being too hot. That sounds a little too self-congratulatory, to be honest.
I feel like
I just got kicked out for being so hot. Like, okay.
I feel like we've heard these stories a lot in the past. And take out the OnlyFans model for teacher fired for being too hot, or lunch lady, or cop. But this is a story that comes up every once in a while. It's the same headline every time: fired for being too hot, criticized for being too hot, ostracized for being too hot. Now, granted, yes, she's an attractive woman. We see this, and she is one of the, I think I read, higher contributing people on OnlyFans, has made quite a bit of money. So yes, she's an attractive woman. But is this still a stigma? Is this still a real thing? Are we still believing that people are being ostracized for being too hot? Or is this just her trying to justify filming in a public location and receiving backlash for it?
Like, I was about to say, it's like, so is like she's upset that for the first time in her entire life, like, but I'm one of the beautiful people. There's no consequence in ever. Like, I just get out of stuff for being beautiful. Like, what? Like, so, like, I just find it a little funny. That's like, speaking of hotness, well, don't get me wrong, Brendan, I totally get it. I've been kicked out of so many establishments for being too hot. Like, that they just say, like, sorry, Phil, you're too hot, you're too beautiful, you're just gonna cause all the people here to just lose all composure. Yes, Ty was so happy.
I was saying, the look on his face as you were saying that pretty much said everything I was thinking.
Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is full of shit.
Actually, I think there might not be a complete nonsense here, and I'll separate this twofold. You've always had the folks that are, you know, a little bit, I wouldn't even say old school, but they're very like socially conservative. They want you to dress properly, and they hate this kind of thing. But we've always had them. Sure. But what we've seen in particularly the last decade, is kind of like a mashing of like the radical left of really hardcore envy, whether it be wealth, whether it be status, whether it be or, you know, any of these things. I can totally see people getting basically in the situation to where they get fired from the right and the left, or just, you know, the fringes in general, because the fringes are taking over everything, and you all need to stop that shit. But to the point where you can to the point where you guys are we can actually see to the point where we can actually see someone who is attractive, which whatever. I am no longer single, so no one is attractive. We'll just put it that way.
But I only have eyes for you, my darling.
Anyway, so whether this person's attractive or not, I'll leave to the audience. But when it comes down to it, is that I can totally understand that in the world that we live now, where you've got people who are like, cover yourself up on one side, and people who are like, I think this person is like I feel jealous because this person is attractive, that you could actually face incredible stigma from this. Like I'm punching more on the left here in this regard, because the level of envy that I have realized now metabolates, or can't say this word. Basically, yes, the level of envy that they actively have towards other people is extreme. Is absolutely extreme. And like I've seen it with the wealth, I've seen it with social status, and let's be honest here, whether it is good or bad, a lot of women are prominent because of the way that they look. And if that is a gateway to status, there's going to be a lot of femoids out there that are going to be like, tear it down. I don't want her here. Get her out. I can't answer up to that. Believe me, I get it. I can't look like Chris Hemsworth, but I'm not going to tell Chris Hemsworth that he can't, be in a store. So,
like, yeah, that is a kind of fascinating thing where it's like we all have, like, we always hear like that's an unrealistic beauty standard. Is it really? Like, that's just what that person happens to look like. It's unrealistic for you. Maybe it's unrealistic for me. Like, I can't play basketball like fucking Shaquille O'Neal. I can't fucking run the 4-minute mile. Those aren't unrealistic standards. It's just maybe unrealistic for me. So it, like, basically what I'm saying is we're all snowflakes.
No, it is like, to a certain degree. It is. It's still the same very, very prude people who want to be sheltered and want everybody else around them to be sheltered as well, and don't want to be exposed to people just expressing a God-given right that is to be expressive in one degree or another within the realms of acceptance. Like, I know those levels are up to debate, but to a certain degree, like, people shouldn't be ostracized because, oh, I subscribe to your naughty channel and I recognized you, but I don't want other people to know that I'm naughty on the side when I'm not at work. So I'm going to pretend to kick you out of my supermarket, even though it really has no fucking bearing on anything. But yes, of course, people are ostracized for being too sexy, even if they're not dressed provocatively, because of maybe who they are or what they might be doing in public, whether or not that's something that they're currently doing. So yeah, I can understand it, and it does happen. But at the same time, we've never been at this point in society where it's been so socially acceptable to be as sexual as people are allowed to be, at least not here in America. I feel like we've kind of reached a level where it's not just okay to condemn it, because you will be condemned for condemning it. So, and that's across the board. That has nothing to do with just being, I want to be sexy and I want other people to be sexy with me or watch me be sexy. That's just across the board. And we're seeing that, and this touches back to the groomer boomer debate that we had earlier on. And people just want other people to accept what they think, and people go to great lengths to do that.
Well, like, I just wanted to make a real quick point here to what you're saying, Ty, is that, when it also is kind of almost like a Puritanism, like a leftist Puritanism, where, and the old joke about Puritanism is that it's the fear that somebody else might be having fun. And that's,
there's that.
And so, like the lefties are like, they've become a lot like the far right Puritan extremists of the 90s, where they can't take a joke. They have a lot to say about how other people have sex with each other, and they don't want anybody to be having any good time without their several layers of control and context all over it. So it's kind of weird how the woke kids became a little bit more like their parents than they ever wanted to admit. But
like I don't want to get too hecked on this because I can't be here for very long, but like I've said this for a while now.
Drop it.
Like, number one, the millennials are really like the boomers, way more than we ever want to admit. And like, we have to admit two things. Number one, everything that we were told was bullshit. Like, stop anything that your parents told you in particular, just don't listen to it. It's bad, but usually bad advice. But the other side of that is that millennials are probably the most socially conservative generation in history. Now, that being said, when people are like, what do you mean socially conservative? I'm using a little bit of an old school definition here. Social conservatives are people that believe that whatever the norms of the society is, it should be codified into law. People should know what those rules are, and people should, more or less, not necessarily be forced, but highly coerced into doing those things, right? Social justice is that. Whether it's on the left, or you just have more traditional values on the right, is that it's kind of weird in that I miss Gen X having the cultural epitome here, because I miss old fashioned liberalism. I hate this shit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I am like, there's a level where I identify with this very, very strongly, where it's just like, I believe that people need to behave in a very particular way, and I'd like them to behave in that way. But I just have gotten to the point where I'm going to be rude as fuck here. I'm a big boy now. I realize that fucking people don't do what I want them to do, and I've got to deal with that shit. So, it's just like, all right, like, I'll say if I think somebody's crossing some lines, like I don't really care for how people dress these days, because either
No, that's fair. That's fair. I exactly disagree.
like the whole kink at Pride.
Wear that out to Chili's.
Yeah. The whole, and people need to have that chat. But the other side of that is that I don't have a problem with people being like open about what they want to talk about. Like, I hate the way that Americans look at sex. I really do. I hate that nudity. I hate that nudity is like, oh my God. But on the other side of that is that, like, we treat it like we're invalids. It's either we can't handle sex, or, oh, I'm like a full-blown hedonist. I must know all the sex. Like, tie me up, daddy. Like, Jesus Christ, calm the fuck down.
It's like that first hit of crack for some people. They don't know how to handle it.
It's weird. It's like,
it's okay to enjoy like missionary and doggy style. You know, like that's you don't.
Well, you're telling me you're not doing the Alabama crab dangle on the regular?
No, can't say I have. Like,
me either.
Well,
my back can't handle that shit anymore.
When reverse cowgirl is considered adventurous.
This is what you wanted to come on for, right?
Yes, Ty.
I am here for the serious professional content. What?
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Let's talk about something.
Final word on this, and then we'll move on to the recession.
Yeah, no, some of these are very real issues. We can cover them in mirroring, but there is like a reality here, and this is why I'm stuck between two worlds. I'm not super right, I'm not super left, but I can actually get down and chat with people like you guys, because excuse me, K.O.E. is a grain farmer. My folks are grain farmers. I have that, that experience in my life. But then I'm also a person who studied in academia, and so I understand where people come from that. And so I actually like conversations like this, because sometimes I'm like, oh, it might be a little crass or whatever, and it might be a little bit on my comfort zone in some degree, but I don't fancy myself as like the elite professional. In fact, actually I kind of counter view myself that, where I'm like, look, I understand what the elites are saying because I was in that world, and I can convey that message to people who will be watching the show, because like, I'm not trying to hit on your audience, but I'll put it in this regard. Is anyone going to be like, yes, I am an elite. I am a professional. I am, I am the crab's ass. Like, no, I assume that
that's me.
Oh, well,
crab's ass.
Other than Phil.
Other than Phil. Phil, you are an excellent showman, and I do appreciate that. But anyway, so when I say that, like, I don't, I'm not trying to rub any shoulders there, but it's one of those deals to where, when I walk into an office and you've got everybody in suits and you've got that uppity fucking nonsense that I can't stand, like, I can deal with that. I recognize that. I work with that. But on the other side, I love coming back home a little bit and talking to some folks like I'm talking to them at the bar. Like, that has some good conversations, and that's why I'm very happy to be on Big Bucking Empire.
Hey, see, couldn't have said it any better myself. That's the vibe.
We'll make a showman of him yet.
So we'll have an honest conversation.
Let's talk shop for me. We got to talk about recessions, because I know Phil's probably beat this to death, but I got to get in on this a little bit, because I'm a little pissed. And by frankly, a little, I mean a lot.
Now, I just got to say, Nate said ahead, Phil, you've been calling this since March. I'm like, I have, haven't I? Like, so now, Ty, Tony, you know how much I hate to say I told you so. But I fucking told you something. Like, so.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. I got to correct you. I'm pretty sure you were actually advocating for this notion back in early 2020, maybe as early as 2020. If something were to happen.
But like the smart money that I was paying attention to,
the baby steps,
didn't say the words recession until about March, and that's was like, we might be heading there. And everybody's saying, well, we technically don't have two, period. We don't have 2 quarters. We don't have 2 quarters, so you can't say recession. Technically, we've been in recession ever since January.
Let's explain that real quick, because I do think that this is vital for context. I just happen to have an NPR article pulled up. I'm sure this is going to be really fair and unbalanced. NPR.org says U.S. economy just had a second quarter of negative growth. Is it in a recession? ? The U.S. economy shrank in the last 3 months by 0.9%. This is the second consecutive quarter where the economy has contracted. In the first quarter, GDP, or gross domestic product, decreased at an annual rate of 1.6. While 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth is often considered a recession, it's not an official definition. A nonpartisan organization called the National Bureau of Economic Research determines when the U.S. economy is in a recession. And NBER committee made up of 8 economists makes that determination by many factors go into that calculation. And the White House has pushed back against calling the current economy a recession. It is no doubt aware of the role the economy is going to play in the midterm elections. President Biden cited record job growth, foreign business investment as signs of strength in the economy. That doesn't sound like a recession to me, Biden concluded. Thoughts?
I've got a lot.
By all means.
Yeah. So number one, let me be Poindexter here, and I'll break out the glasses if I need to, and talk about the actual, definition. So when I was in school, is that I actually studied economics and political science. Economics is what I started with. So literally, within Econ 101 is that we talked about what a recession was, and the general definition is an economic contraction that is of 2 quarters or more. And in fact, if you want to get further, what the reason why you didn't call 2008 a depression, because even though it was huge, is that it was the Great Recession, was that it didn't go for 2 years. The big split here: recession 2 quarters, a depression is 2 years. So 8 quarters of continuous contraction. So that's where I'm at now. I know that that the media, and even if you look on Wikipedia, which they have proven has been changed recently. Is there any global definition? No. If we're talking about contemporary economics, the vast majority of people, particularly within the Anglosphere, so Canada, United States, goes with the 2 quarter definition.
Well,
and the fact that they're
finance and banks.
Yeah. The fact that they've been walking back on this is twofold. Number one, it's politics, because here's the real kicker. The moment that someone utters recession, it actually kind of fuels itself as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. So I totally get where everyone's like, fuck, we can't say this, right? Like, we can't say recession.
The economy is a psychological engine.
In some ways it is. Like I hate this, but the reality is that there are certain words that the president can say, and we will watch no matter who it is, Biden or whoever, where you can watch the Dow Jones the next day go up or down 3%. We have seen this. We know what those words are. It's kind of dumb. Now, on the other side, getting this kind of hemmed in, there is a level where I just kind of wish that people would more particularly the administration would just kind of own up to it, and is like, yeah, we're in a recession. But I get why they're trying not to, but it's just making them look weaker.
Midterms.
It's not just the midterms. It's literally the reality is that the moment that they say, hey, we're in recession, we need to do something about it, the likelihood it gets actually worse. So it's really kind of a self-defeating engine, because while you may think this a little ridiculous, the investment community, which is a primary driver in, everything from lending all the way into stock prices, which are usually where everything kind of goes to hell, those people really listen to what the White House says. So I totally get Biden for taking flack on this one. I'm not going to say which one's the right call, because morally, I'm just like, you need to say it. But I literally, I've been absolutely abomished by this administration's ability to say anything punctual or with decency. Like there is no communication to the American people about anything, whether it was Ukraine, whether it was really COVID, whether it is this issue. It's too much. Hey, just have the press secretary take care of this. I'm not even going to address it. I hate this.
That was the thing. That was the thing for me today. The new press secretary being grilled by it's the same guy in the chair every time that they pan over to, asking the hard question, and he asks it so perfectly every time, regardless of who the press secretary is, whether it's the shark from Trump or the ginger that we.
I know exactly who you're talking about. The blonde kid from Fox News. I think him and Jim Pisaki were fucking. I really do.
Yeah, it's always so perfect. And he asked, he's like, but by definition, this is literally a depression. But that's not actually the definition. But we're
taking them all.
And then she just like
holistic
like,
approach.
Oh shit!
Man.
Wait, I am. But how do I mental gym? Fact that we have to sit here and entertain the fact that yes, the Biden administration is 110% legitimately trying to redefine some of these terms because of technicalities, just like he did with 2 billion new jobs. Have we not debunked that to a fucking degree? Give me a fucking break.
My net's getting a little choppy.
I do got one more thing I want to add in here. This is what I would have done in this situation, but it's a kind of a different spiel. Number one, a lot of people weren't really expecting that we were going to get unlimited power in these quarters. Now, granted, we expected a little bit of lower stuff because of some stuff going on, and like Phil's called it. We can talk about the inflation. We can talk about just general what the economic trends that we're seeing, where everything's going in 1,000 different directions at once. The reality here is that we are not technically in a recession. We are in stagflation, which is a different thing entirely, because
we can have both.
Yeah. Well, no. By definition, stagflation is technically partially a recession because it is negative economic growth at the same time.
So
as
it is a recession.
Oh, yeah. So, and I'm sorry that I'm parsing this out, but it's really important.
No. By all means.
A normal recession is what we call a deflationary spiral in economics. It's basically when things are going along and chugging along, doing the things that they normally are supposed to do, but then you see an entire market sector kind of collapse in on itself. Like last time it was the housing crisis, it was, I'm sorry, 2008, because 2020 was an anomaly. 2008 was the housing crisis, to where basically everyone was doing shit that they weren't supposed to be doing, or this doesn't really make a lot of sense. And sooner or later, the bubble popped, because you can't keep a Ponzi scheme like that going forever. And then you see an entire section of industry wipe out. When that happens, is that it cascades through the entire system, right? So it's...
Hey there, Ty. I'm just spreading the brilliance of Tiberius D to the K.O.E. nation so that they could hear this. And also, I'm sorry. You even saying like, and Phil, you called this like, oh, that's beautiful. It's like music to my ears. Sorry. It just is. It just is. Uh-oh. Wow. Interesting, folks. My internet.
It's usually...
All right, maybe. Well, shit. Well,
usually not one of these deals to where you just have one sector go and the next and next and the next and the next, because right after housing was banking, because they were integrally related. And once banking goes out, what happens to your operating loan, right? So all of business got hit with that really quick.